Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to do something a little unorthodox here. We're going to be watching the live stream of my live premiere of my latest office hour, latest Galactic Historian stuff here at the very beginning. But let's get to the office first. Hello. Welcome to a very special episode. One where we do a little bit more... a little earlier for those of you in Europe. Hopefully come and hang out. Bit of an early one, that's the point. I haven't done a lot of these. I wanted to do, I usually, in the past, I've done them more often, but I haven't been able to, just mostly because I've been wanting to do other things. But since my summer is coming up here in a bit, I wanted to make sure that we could do at least one or two little early ones that could hang out and talk Star Citizen, especially look at some of the news with things coming up, so. Tyler, Jacob, Atreides, how y'all doing? Mute that for now. Office hours on a Tuesday? I know. Cats and dogs living together. Mass hysteria. People always complain that, like, especially those in Europe were like, hey, Paul, I love to watch you, but you like go live at such late hours. So I wanted to do it at a time that was like, you know, 8 p.m. for the rest of the world. between like 5 and or between 6 and like 9 in Europe. Just being an ideal time. Hey, trying to capture that audience. This won't be a typical. I say that, but it probably will. This probably won't be a typical office hours because I don't have anything to do for like a capsule. We're just gonna hang out and talk. Look at this week in Star Citizen. Look at some of the news. Talk about the cool stuff. I lied. Well, we'll see. I might do a capsule on. As a follow-up for but that's a pretty short one, so. I'm an old soul with an early bedtime, yeah. Yeah, starting at 9 p.m. can be pretty rough for some people, because a lot of people want to go to bed at 9, 10, so. Yeah, now you can see everything. See, I've been trying to update things. I'm experimenting. So those of you on YouTube, I have a bot up and running, so it'll give me alerts for things like your subscriptions, your memberships, your tips, your super chats, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I wanted to hang out specifically with you there, Tyler. This is the greatest answer to a boring lunch break. No problem. So are they doing brew crafting or just pretty pictures? That's the good question. I don't know. My guess is it's right now pretty pictures. We'll talk a little bit about that picture and talk a little bit about my thoughts on that. Those of you who don't know, the Sneakily Peekly was something that was very unexpected. It was looked like some sort of craft system for like booze. Looks like we got a pro streamer or something. No, I'm not a pro streamer. I'm just an idiot who turns on their camera sometimes. There's a rising tide of, dare I say it, positivity in the community. It's a trap. Well, we've gone over the hump of the summer, and notably the summer hump was a lot less than it has been in the past. But we've gone over the hump in the summer, so we're going to be coming into. See, there we go. Someone just subscribed to the YouTube channel, and I see the little notice right there, going away. I'm gonna try to do that with Twitch as well, so that you'll see all of the alerts. So, Space Moonshine, we'll talk about it. Hey, Paul, thanks for all the great content. I listen to the live streams while delivering food. Hey, you are a true hero. Trust me. As someone who has ordered food online or through the phone multiple times in my life, when I'm just like, man, I just don't want to fucking do anything. I always respect people who do that shit, so you don't get paid enough. Say that. Yeah, so I wanted to improve the quality a little bit. So now you can see YouTube and Twitch. And for those of you who are like, oh no, I gotta watch Paul's latest video because my latest video is live right now for the Astro Historian, the latest lore video. I did a system survey on Castra. So. I'm going to test this for my own curiosity. There's no alerts, like I'm not going to do dancing and stuff like that when I'm doing office hours, but I will have like the alerts over here. So, oh, you're on YouTube. Okay, I got it. This music right now, this music you're hearing is Star Citizen. It's Star Citizen stock music. Well, stock. It's made by Pedro, so. There's a lore video on Castra. It's one of my favorite systems out there, just because its uniqueness. The idea of I mean, like I grew up in the Bay Area, so like Alameda Naval Base was a huge part of my life because it was decommissioned just when I was a kid. Like when I was between the time I was like born and when I was like 5 or 6 is when Alameda Naval Station got decommissioned. So like being around old naval stations and like the mothball fleet and stuff like that was just common for me. So it reminds me a lot of that. You grew up in Vallejo? Nice. Yeah, I grew up in Richmond, Berkeley, Oakland, El Cerrito, that region. Let's see if the shitty. Casper Brim, good. Hey, Scape, how you doing? Player cap hype cut train, yeah. We'll talk about that here in a moment there, Lisa. You lived in Oakland for 2 years. I've lived in multiple parts of Oakland, both the good and bad parts of Oakland. Who dares stream office hours in the middle of my workday? Of course. Listen, Naz, you're not the only person, you know, for everybody in Europe, their workday is done. They're hanging out. They're eating their dinner. They're about to go to bed. Was everything on the edge of bad, 77th Street? Yeah. I mean, you know how Oakland is. Oakland is like, especially in recent years, it's changed a lot from when I was growing up. Like you can walk 2 blocks and be in the ghetto, but like 2 blocks over, you're in gentrified Whiteville. It's so weird. But I'm waiting. I'm kind of just hanging out, and because I'm doing the. So I'm testing something different. I'm currently streaming on Twitch and YouTube. And on Twitch, on YouTube, I'm premiering my latest lore video. And when this is over with, this will, when the premiere is over with, they should all dump back into this live stream. So we'll see. You work night shifts in the Philippines, but now it's my lunch break, so stars have aligned. Hey, that works. Oh yeah, usually this happens 8 hours later, but I wanted to do a little bit, I wanted to test this functionality out for like releasing a video and then having it dumped directly into a live stream on YouTube. But also, the people in Europe and other parts of the world who are just in general who may not be able to catch me super late on the weekdays, and since I don't have work again until the second week of August, so I just figured why not do this. As a Brit, my only reference for Oakland is Sons of Anarchy. Oakland is a weird city because it's really like 4 cities in one. The West Coast cities are also very different from East Coast cities and Southern cities. There is like a straight up, like no separation between cities. Like Oakland, Albany, El Cerrito, Berkeley, Alameda, Richmond. All of those cities are literally just one big city. There's no defined borders, no break. There's a sign that says you're crossing over from one city to another. Yeah, I mean that's the idea, but I'm trying to figure that kind of stuff out in the future. The idea being the beginnings of the live streams are always just kind of like, hey, what's up? We're going to hang out and talk a little bit. And then we'll get into the topics here in a moment. So, yeah, it's similar to Atlanta. I've been to the Atlanta Metro. It's very similar to that. Yeah. It's like New York, where like the boroughs are all like practically their own cities. They're all mushed together. But, you know, growing up in California and then living the rest of my life in the South has showed me the very big differences between those. Because then I lived in a suburb of, for many years, I lived in a suburb of Nashville called, I guess the locals would complain because it's not a suburb, but called Murfreesboro. And it's about like, it's the closest to a suburb, but it's like about 20 minutes outside of Nashville. And like the difference between like Nashville and Murfreesboro is like there's literal farmland between those two. My mid-afternoon here, sweltering at 34, 93 degrees, 90% humidity. LA is expected to get 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's hot. Are you taking a question? Yeah. Feel free to ask any. Are there any manufacturers that don't sell ships at dealerships besides Crusader in lore? Kind of like how Tesla does it, where you buy just from the shop. Not many. Most of them are okay. Maybe no Kruger you can buy as well. No, I don't think there are. Kruger sells, you can buy Kruger ships at a New Deal. You can buy the P-72 and P-52 at New Deal, I believe. Kruger is based in Castro, yeah. Day 726 waiting for a consolidated Outland cargo ship. I don't know if that'll work. I don't know if that'll happen. So hopefully this will dump over. I'm just doing this test real quickly. Does it automatically dump? Waiting for it. Hey, we should see this. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Those of you who just watched my my premiere for the system survey. It should wait for a few more minutes, a few more seconds. It should pop over. There we go. There's the numbers popping up. Hello again. Welcome everybody from watching the latest Astro Historian. My name is Paul Berserker One Batman Shelley. This was an experiment. I do with this on Thursdays, usually much later. But since I do the Astro Historian posts on Tuesdays, and because I'm still off from school, I figured why not show y'all my other channel, which is my gaming channel. So if you are enjoying this content, you enjoy my content, and you're just like, hey, I haven't seen Paul do any captain's tables recently, that's because all of them have moved to this new channel. So Galactopedia update today when? Oh, probably much later. I'll have to double check, but. So, and if those of you who like my lore stuff, this is where I cover like the Star Citizen content, where I talk about weekly news and updates and all sorts of other things. AG Sharp. What would a consolidated Outland cargo ship be? Probably, I mean, Silas Kerner doesn't like to do pedestrian things. Anything that Silas Kerner is doing, he wants to do to fill a niche that he feels is not being met. And there's plenty of cargo ships. It'd be much more likely for Silas Kerner to make a racing ship or an exploration ship or maybe like a colony ship. I don't think you would, because Consolidated Outland, it really isn't a cargo ship manufacturer. So, usually what we do on office hours is we start off with just kind of hang out and talking, but we always do once every few weeks, if I can get this done, I do a little model show off, because one of the things I do is for fun is I'm a hobbyer modeling. I paint models and stuff like that, like Warhammer and other things like that. And my latest work, I've been working on my first Blood Bowl team. Blood Bowl is like, it's football, but fantasy football, literally fantasy football, like fantasy, like orcs and goblins and that kind of stuff. Set in the Warhammer universe. So if you like Warhammer Total War, it's that, but football. This is my latest creation. Full contact combat football, yeah. Nah, I mean, but anyways, yes, this is also Rex. He's a thrower. Number 2. Imperial Nobles team. The name that I have for them is the Wincesters, the Wind Valley Wincesters. And I know that's going to make a lot of people go, Paul, what are you doing? It's like, well, they're nobility, and anyone who knows about nobility knows what their proclivities are. And if they're nobles, they'll probably revel in that. So. Please tell me it's a Supernatural joke. I don't know if that's a Supernatural joke. I don't watch Supernatural, so I decided to make all of their names based off of various noble titles. So this is Rex. The other thrower I'm going to have is going to be named Caesar. And then there's going to be Lord, Lorde, Dutch, Duchess, Duke, Baron, Knight, Count, Esquire, Prince. Yeah. They're all going to be different names like that. So. Hey, Paul, is the most rainy planet what is the most rainy planet habitable? I would like to know what planet is my home planet. We don't know. So here's the problem. A lot of what we know about the lore of planets is variable because it was designed before, a lot of the planet's lore was designed before we could actually land on planets. Because back when Star Citizen was just going to be just space and, get out of your ships and that kind of stuff and walk around and walk on stations and such, but you weren't gonna really go to, like, when you were landing on planets, it was going to be a cutscene. They wanted to not make all the planets super interesting because they didn't want to have like people be like, oh, cool, I want to land on this planet. They wanted to give some availability. So a lot of planets are very like dead planets, and so they've had to change it. Like Pyro, for instance, has had to change significantly with the new updates. So like rainy planets, I mean, depends. There's like planets that are more foresty, like rainforesty, like Goss or Green or Tohill, which have a lot of like very lush vegetation. Terra is pretty rainy, but like constantly raining, I don't know. I don't know if many. Oh, I'd love to see a Catachan style planet too, one which just absolutely hostile to life. I mean, Oso's like that, where the Osoians are. Do you think they'll air a new Loremaster's guide before each system is released? I'd love for them to do so. But I know what the answer is that the lore team has a lot of fucking work to do because they have to write narratives and briefs for everything, and they have to go through, they have to write constantly week to week. I mean, there's 4 of them. They probably write, between the 4 of them, they probably write 5 lore updates or like 5 major like pieces of lore per month. More likely more, because they have to do usually a lore update for Galactic, or for Whitley's guide on the jump point, then 2 new lore lore posts per month for the regular stuff. Plus they have to do a quarterly community questions, where each quarter they take some questions from the community about lore updates and decisions. Then they also do Galactic every once a month. They do Galactopedia updates. So that's a shit ton of work. So most of the time, as far as I can tell, the narrative team is pretty much like, we're smashed. We can't really sit down and talk about this a ton. We were lucky to get Dave Haddock for our Lore Citizen podcast, because I think the only reason why we were able to get him is because he was coming down from COVID. So he's like, I got nothing to do. And I'm going stir crazy. So. Goss or Tohill for sure, yeah. Anyone, new moon discovered, Star's lore team. This moon has been mined out. Yeah. Rain is my favorite weather. Is there, if there is a constantly raining world, I will 100% build something there. I don't think there's a constant raining world that's rain. There might be constantly raining world that's like a smog planet, like Venus or Titan. But I didn't see your question, Scape. Well, we'll be catching the rest of this replay. I got to get some stuff done before lunch is over. See you later. Later, Naz. Thanks for hanging out. Man, some humid, sweltering drizzle or rain showers would be nice. We have had that like few hours of showers one day in the past weeks. Cuts down the forest fires. Yeah. I just want a Connie habitation area rework. Yeah, it does. It definitely needs a rework. Paige, Earl. Yeah, those are good ones. How many of the are eccentric officers? I don't know what you're talking about, Wizard. The aristocrats. Yeah, basically. Yeah, I mean, weather already damages your ships. If you don't notice, when you are flying around, if you leave your ship in like a windstorm, come back and you'll see bits of the paint have been flecked off, and the ship is actually starting to weather down in the game. Like they actually have that in game right now. The problem is, and it does actually matter for your repair. Like that's why if you haven't done anything, you've flown your ship perfectly and you land, there's like a 5 UEC to fix your ship. Look at your cockpit glass and look at your look at the glass on your ship, and then look at the exterior. You'll see it actually has been run down. So How well do you think the Star Citizen lore stands up against other more mainstream universes in films or books? It's not done yet, so it's kind of hard to say. Like, one of the things that's important to remember about Star Citizen lore is that at its core, Star Citizen lore is a work in progress. And will be a work in progress for a long time. They'll eventually settle on lots of the details, but the main chunks of the lore are already set in place. Like, we ain't moving to, the timeline's not changing. The date is the date, that's it. And, you know, quantum drives, jump points, all those kind of things. But they don't want to go into a lot of the details because they want to let the gameplay fill out the margins. You know, fill out the details with gameplay and let the teams kind of figure out how those work. So I think Star Citizen lore is unique in that it's not made as just filler background to explain why you're doing something in the game. It is literally part of the game. Like the narrative lore and the gameplay are, you cannot remove them. There's a load bearing. That's a load bearing plot point. Lore is bearing the load of the gameplay and vice versa. They are intertwined and you cannot untangle them. The problem is that the lore isn't as much in game other than the atmospheric storytelling that the developers do. And as a result, Star Citizen will probably never really have mainstream success in the same way you'd see something like BattleTech or 40K or Destiny or FNAF or any of those other kind of games, or even like IPs like Star Trek or Star Wars or Stargate. You know, you won't really see a lot of that like expansion because it's so dedicated to being a game. So, but I would say that it stands up in that it's unique in its nature, that how willing they are to change the lore based off of people's actions. And Star Citizen lore at its core attempts to be as authentic experience as possible. There are no bad guys who are there are no good guys who are like, I am the paragon of good. Everything is living in this gray shades region where players can attach themselves to different factions or to different ideals, and it mirrors a lot of real life, and you can actually see that in a lot of the lore. As a result, I think because they're willing for people to change the lore, and because it's developing, and because it's so immersed in this concept of nobody's good or bad, it knocks out a unique spot that will grow over time as the game grows. So, let me go back up. Will we ever see roads for ground vehicles that stretch from point A, point POI, like long distance roads? Yeah, I think that's eventually the point. That's eventually planned. That is also main snow-capped desert up here. Yeah. I do love weathered ships. I hope they can repair without fixing the weathering sooner rather than later. Hey, Wanted Tiger, how you doing? Is the dream of having one giant server per hemisphere still a pipe dream? I don't think it's a pipe dream. It's definitely possible. The question is more, at its core, can CIG do that without wrecking the performance? And that comes down to the last pillars of the game: persistent entity streaming, persistence, server meshing, and dynamic server meshing. Those are the three things that will determine if it's physically possible. They seem to think it's physically possible. In fact, they think that's the more reasonable answer than having one major shard for the entire game. But it's important to remember as well that shards in Star Citizen are not like shards or servers of other MMOs. You can hop in and out of shards without even realizing you're hopping in and out of shards. And everything will persist with you. You're not locked to one shard. It's not like, well, I got to play my character on this shard, and then this shard's going to have a completely different character. It doesn't work like that. It works much more like Tarkov or DayZ or other survival games where like you have this big central database of all the information, and then you can hop between servers as you need to. Only you don't get to choose where you hop. You just choose the gameplay will sort you based off of your either best or your choices of region. It'd be more fair to compare the lore with Star Wars setting in 1976. That IP has almost 50 years to be built into it. Yeah, which also kind of stuff. Question. What player count do you predict will be for 317.2? 75. Between 60 and 75. 60 would be big because we actually used to have 60 per server, early days of 3.0. Do you think there will be planets so inhospitable you can't leave your ship except from a rover or but not on foot? I think you could always go back on foot, but there'll be some planets where if you go out on foot, your survival time will be listed in minutes. Like you've got like 2 minutes of exposure. You can already see that with some stuff with not the proper gear. Your survival time looks like 10, 20 minutes in certain like really extreme conditions. In some planets, I imagine that even if you have the best equipment, like you got the Pembroke armor and you got everything, you all sorted out, you're still looking at like 20, like 2 minute kind of survival times. I just paying the intern to do the quick patch job in the paint. Question, what changes would you like to see for gold standard on Misc Freelancer and favorite Freelancer variant? The Misc Freelancer Misc is my favorite. But the gold standard, I like to see the internals reworked. Probably not the front cockpit too much. The front cockpit is fine. I know a lot of people don't like the slit windows, but it looks fine. Maybe change basically I'd change the layout of the cockpit a little bit more, make it a little bit better. Like the 4-person cockpit doesn't make a lot of sense unless they have, actual roles built into them. But that's, makes sense when we have multi-crew. And then change the living quarters. Everything else is fine. Like that front living quarters / cockpit area, that needs to get overhauled. The exterior is fine, everything else is fine. Xenothreat gets pretty close to being pure evil. Xenothreat, I'm actually considering doing a video on Xenothreat in terms of the in terms of it as a like the story elements of Xenothreat, because they actually reflect some very interesting modern and historical parallels to political movements which use the like anti-business, anti-corporate, rhetoric draped in a lot of racism. Because, at its core, Xenothreat is an anti-Xeno organization. But those of you who are educated in terms of historically how this happens, when they say the corporations are evil, they don't mean the corporations are evil. They mean the corporations have been infiltrated by the foul Xenos. That the media is infiltrated by these foul Xenos. And you can guess pretty quickly what this is in reference to. Well, BattleTech was mainstream, but BattleTech has tons of novels. I don't know if Star Citizen will ever have more novels. With more studios like Nintendo and Microsoft developing TV movie productions, I could see CIG moving that way in a decade or two. That could, yeah. Question, should CIG scale up the amount of missions in the PU if they increase the player count? They should at least increase the number of, the amount of times they spawn. Yeah, for sure. Because you're going to see people kind of get sniped on those kind of things. As well as what they need to do is increase the spawn timer. Except for me, I'm in a paragon of good. Well, except for that sells weapons to pirates so they can keep pirating thing. Talking about the paint jobs, it should be optional to not fix paint jobs. Yeah, definitely. Question, I've been borrowing all the Star Citizen companies, engaged to saying browsing, because it's trying to name an org. What are some well-known mining companies other than Art Corp and Shubin? That's pretty much it. Those are the two big ones. There's lots of like small wildcat miners and stuff like that, but I don't know. There's not really a lot of mining lore for that. So any kind of like mineral pun you can think of would be fine, like galactic resources or something like that, or stellar extractors. For roads, they're actually heading into a procedural road generation after procedural rivers are made, since they're very similar pathing tech. Yes. Question, just wondering, do they still use planet-bound planes and jets anymore, or basically all vessels space capable? We don't know, though the sounds of things is that the way that the technology has been moving for the Star Citizen universe, it feels like basically anything that you would be built for capable of flying in space would be able to handle pretty much any environment on the ground. The problem is, like Earth, jets work great, helicopters work great, but Mars, you need to build a very different type of plane to be able to navigate the Martian atmosphere because it's thinner. You don't have the same kind of aerodynamic features as Earth, similar to like Titan or say Terra. Terra is a super Earth. We don't know what the aerodynamic relationship of Terra is. It's probably higher gravity, which means you have to build things differently as well. So there's a lot of different factors that go into like aerodynamics for just aeroplanes and stuff. But if your ship is designed to fuck you gravity and just yeet itself into space without having to, with its own thrusters, then it can pretty much handle any sort of atmosphere or planet that exists. So it's more of it's hard to build bespoke for specific planets. So why not just build a spaceship? Especially since they're cheap to make in the Star Citizen universe. Rather the game where the lore is not as deeply, but matches the game, and then something like League of Legends with super deep lore, other games, and the game has zero connections to it. I mean, Star Citizen has some pretty deep lore. The problem is that it does have some deep lore. The problem is that the deep lore isn't finished yet. Like fundamental aspects, like we know what who the Mezzers names were, but often the only reference we have for a Mezzer is like one sentence in one design doc about like architecture. We don't know about their achievements. We don't know who they were. We don't know what they look like. Like all we know is their name. In some cases, I think up until recently, we didn't even have names for half of them. But now we have names. We have some basic information, but we still don't have a cool like. We have an idea, like if I was to explain to you the U.S. Cold War, the U.S. Soviet Union Cold War from 1945 to 1990, I could give you a brief synopsis in about an hour of all of the major ups and downs, but you would still not touch on the various presidents who were in charge of it in the United States, the various, leaders of the Soviet Union, let alone like the leaders of Europe or Asia and how they played into this with the Africa, South America. There's so much to know about the Cold War beyond just the U.S. and the USSR. But it's kind of like that's kind of like the Mezzer era. We have the cliff notes. We have what you could do in an hour to give a lecture to a classroom of high schoolers, to give you the overarching points. We don't know the details as to why these things happen. And the reason why we don't is because the lore team doesn't want to trap themselves in a situation where they've written this small detail that happened for this Mezzer, many, many years ago, and then want to change that later because this ship, it came out, makes more sense to do that kind of thing. So they want to kind of wait until the game is more fleshed out and developed before they go back and try to fix those things, especially since they can play into entire mission chains. I wonder if servers would be destroyed by medical gowns from 75 people. I don't think so. The issue with servers, let me put it this way. The actual difference between 75 players and 50 players isn't that much. If a server was going to be destroyed by medical gowns of 75 people, it'd be destroyed by 50 people. Because it's not 50 people and then no one else can go in. The lifetime of a server could probably have 400, 1,000, 4,000 people going in and out of a server. It's not 50 people cut off. Because when someone logs out, someone can come back in, and then they also generate their own like medical gowns and all that kind of stuff. That's the issue. How many people do we need to run a ship on a server? Not close enough to a capture battle. Generally speaking, the rule is 50 versus 50. You need about 50 people for one of the bigger capital ships. So if you can get 2 people to crew an entire Idris, is what I said before. If you can get two groups of people to crew an Idris, then they could, feel like they can start adding more people to, adding larger capital ships to the game. 75 is about that. But of course, you also need things like persistent entity streaming. You need to have multi-crew roles, which they're still working on. So, I'm actually wondering, will extreme radiation be an environmental factor in the future? Yes, that's what Pyro is. Pyro is almost a test ground for them to test how radiation will work in game. I changed it to 3-person, 1 up front to the pilot and 2 co-pilot operator seats. Yeah, like a 3-person cab. Yeah, I can see that. Or like 2-person in a back seat. Question: how many people do we need to run ships on the server that not close enough? Oh, wait, I answered that one. Yeah. Do you think they will add escape pods to the MSR? No, but I hope they had an extra way of getting out than the current one does. Xenothreat feels very current events too. It's definitely inspired by current events, but historically speaking, there are many groups that use that sort of rhetoric. Question: how in depth do you think the base building could theoretically be? As in depth as they want it to be. And theoretically, you could get granular. You could get to what you see with, say, something like Starfield, where you can add individual props in different locations. I think the goal initially is to be able to build buildings which will allow for players to use a base for any specific type of event. Or any specific type of profession, like turning a mining base, a salvage base, an info running base, a storage base, like a trading base, a refuel repair base, those sorts of things. But I think the sky's the limit. The question is less what could they do and more what should they do, because they could do everything. Everything that's in the game now could be theoretically built by players if they gave them the tools, which wouldn't be too difficult. Question: after Gen 12 and T0 server meshing tech is done, what other core tech is outstanding? The dynamic server meshing and the quantum system, the dynamic economy, effectively. Quantum is already starting, but they've even said that that's not really their focus right now. So I'm guessing they're focusing that more on something that's going to happen next year, maybe 4.0 or later. But that's really what we're waiting for. We're waiting for the right now they're working on this, the dynamic mission system, which allows the server to spin up missions dynamically rather than having to have like these stock missions that exist in game that are all handcrafted and placed by developers. They want to have to basically procedurally generate missions, based off of certain aspects that they can string together. So instead of having pick these 3 boxes up and drop them off at locations, it's like, hey, pick this amount of cargo up and take it to this location. I'd like them to redo the Lancer engines. I'd love to see them to do the full Xi'an style, like VTOL look. I'd love to see that as well, but we'll see. Hey, Paul, I was wondering, do you ever think there's another Freelancer for medical, like a Cutlass Red? I don't know if the Misc would do medical. I think it's much more of an RSI, Aegis, or Anvil thing. I could see Consolidated Outland maybe doing that. But we're talking, because, I've talked about this before, how the UEE military needs an ambulance. And while early Apollos were ambulances in terms of lore, like early developed Apollos, modern Apollos are very different. So like the Apollo we have now is much more of it's like an Apollo version 4, whereas the Apollos in the early 29th century were like version 1, which were more ambulances. And they even talk about that in the lore. So we need something that's like a Cutlass Red, but not made by Drake, because the UEE doesn't use Drake tech. Is anti-Xeno racism? They're human bigotry, at least. It's often in sci-fi, they often use like xenophobia as a stand-in for racism, or many other isms that exist in our modern world, and they're obviously taking huge influences from those sorts of real life events. I would say anti-Xeno is racism, and the idea that humans isn't a thing anymore in the Citizen universe. We've moved past the silliness, and aliens are actually another race, not just color skin. Yeah, it stand-in. Exactly, Paul. The good qualities about the Messer system being fleshed out. Oh, Tyler. Going through some of this. We need Roombas to move around and despawn things in the ground. Yeah, I could see missions being made where you pick up stuff and throw stuff away and you get money for it. It'll also probably be a planetism Star Citizen. There is definitely a kind of nationalism like stand-in where like people from Terra are very proud that they're from Terra. People from Magnus are very proud that they're from Magnus. People from Earth are very proud that they're from Earth. And they kind of tend to shit on other people from other planets. And again, every planet is kind of like a planet. And there are sometimes multiple literal states, like nations, on planets. Like, there are different nations still in the Star Citizen universe. The nation state still exists. It's just so small compared to the galactic sense. Like the UEE controls so much that being from, like, Mexico or Saudi Arabia or Poland, like that whole concept is like, who gives a shit? Like, it might explain some of your culture, but you when you live in that sort of like expanded universe where you can get into a ship and fly to another planet in a matter of hours, let alone go to another part of your planet in minutes. It's kind of hard to, like, that whole concept. You could literally in the Star Citizen universe, you could live in Germany and commute to work in Beijing. There's nothing that stops that. When you have that kind of freedom, those identities break down very quickly. About that. Planetism, yeah. Hey, Yuri, how you doing? Oh, we get a raid? I didn't see the raid. Hey, Jfish, thank you so much for that raid. Welcome from Jfish's stream. My name's Paul. I don't usually do this early, so welcome. I'm kind of behind. I'm backing up on chat. How you doing, Jfish? Can we get a follow command for Jfish? Doesn't Misc have a capital ship hospital? Yeah, it's the Hope, the Endeavor Hope. I just want the mayor be the mayor of some cozy village in a rainy colony world. I get that. Question. Do you think we're more likely to see an Anvil medical ship then? Yeah, much more likely to see an Anvil medical ship than anything. Or RSI or Anvil. Anvil seems to be the current go-to ship for modern UEE military spending. But if it's military and civilian, it could easily be RSI. Question, what do you think the next Kruger ship will be, and will it be bigger? I'd like to see another Kruger ship. If it was another, if we were to see another Kruger ship, it would likely be something on the medium scale or large scale. Kruger is headquartered in Castra, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something that was militia in that mindset. Especially since Castra is on the edge of the frontier. I could see them building something that would effectively give militias a big boost. Is this thing on? Hey, Don Steeler. Dear Paul, a humble request, and okay, I'm gonna accept people. For those who don't know, I started an organization, the League of Relic Enthusiasts, or Lore. The Lore organization, the League, is set out to preserve historical artifacts and historical records from the past in the Star Citizen universe to eventually open up a museum. We're not professionals in any way, shape, or form. We're all just talented amateurs. So countries are like cities? Yeah, very similar to that. Or districts, yeah. Hello, Mr. AstroPubs. Seeing you around in the global travel and in a Bombardier 2500. 7500. It's a commuter to Hong Kong, Europe, and San Diego. No big deal. Almost Mach 12 or not Mach 1. You do global travel in a bombardier at almost Mach 1. Okay. But as how much is that that available for your average commuter to somebody who works in like a Stop and Shop at a gas station? That's what I mean. Like you could literally live in Germany and work at a gas station in Taiwan as your daily job. There's nothing that stops you from doing that. So I just got here. What's the biggest news that we already talked about already? We haven't really talked about anything. It's been mostly questions. We're going to talk about it here in a moment, but I've been inundated with people talking and hanging out. So question, does CIG have any plans to create medical type missions where you have to go to place to heal an NPC in a mission, and further up you have, the more challenging it gets? I think that's a plan. Yeah, it's just not available yet because they need to be able to have NPCs that can move on ground, which is 317.2, and also move into ships and or be moved into ships and then delivered. That sounds like something they'd probably want to do, but they probably also don't want to take the effort to build a medical mission like that, only for it to be completely rewritten because of the dynamic mission system, which is the next thing that's on the horizon. Link, I have to find that. It's L0RE on Spectrum. That's the code is L0RE. All right, I'm finally up there. How do you complete current medical beacon requests? You have to, I think you have to heal them, and then you have to, oh no, you have to take them to a medical facility and drop them off. That's how you commit them. So you have to get someone, pick them up, take them back to a hospital, and drop them off. That's how you get them done, which is kind of weird. Thank you, Deliner. But I don't want to work in Taiwan. You don't have to. You can work in wherever you want to on the planet. Like the fact that easy, accessible space travel is as easy and affordable as a commuter car in the Star Citizen universe shows you that kind of concept. Now, not everyone necessarily uses them. Just like today, real life, not everyone has need for a commuter car. But it's nice. You know what would be great for medical objectives? Siege of Orison. Yeah, that'd be great. All right, I'm finally caught up with chat. All right, I'm going to go through and do that kind of thing in a moment. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about some of the news. Let's go through This Week in Star Citizen, and we'll talk a little bit about what's the plan for this week. Only an hour in, we're finally getting to the goddamn stuff. All right. All right, so This Week in Star Citizen. This was posted yesterday. Happy Monday, everyone. Last week in preparation for the upcoming launch of Alpha 317.2, we opened up the public test universe to all players, so PTU is open to everybody. Those of you who joined the PTU will also have seen that we tested several new player caps, from 75 to 120 players per server. Watch my video if you haven't already done that. Now I know that we previously said we had no plans to increase the player cap for live servers. However, the results of said tests have been promising. However, the results of said test have been so promising that things have changed. For this reason, we are now exploring and increasing the cap of the live release of Alpha 317.2. We're still testing / reviewing, and we'll share more information, including what cap we end up going to very soon. Might do this as a capsule on Thursday. We'll see this. So we're gonna probably get more players per server. It may end up being like 60 players per server, or it could be 75, or it could be 120. We don't know. My guess is it's probably going to be between 60 and 75. Yeah, I'm hoping for 100. 100 would be a solid get, because if we got 100 players per server and it was okay with 317.2, I could almost guarantee you that 318 will have over 100 players, possibly 200 players per server. And you can clip this and save it. I predict we are going to see an increase of 100 plus players with 318, no matter what. No matter what happens this patch, just because those of you who haven't followed the development, let me go back to this and we'll talk about this. Let me explain. They are not going to let people enter a shard, any more people that enter a shard than they can maximum put into a server. So a shard is like a server, like a typical MMO server. This is the boundaries of which it's like the gameplay board that you can play in, the map. And a shard can hold multiple servers. The initial release of Pyro is going to have 4 different servers across 2 different systems into one shard. 4 enmeshed servers is their plan. So, as a result, CIG cannot have the shard number of players per shard be any larger than could fit in a single server inside that shard. Because they don't want to have a situation where players will not be able to enter that server because it's too large, especially with static meshing. Dynamic meshing might change it a little bit, but static meshing at the very least, it'll probably be the same thing as that. So 318, they're going to want to push it as high as they possibly can, because when we have 318, effectively, we have a shard, a single server shard at 318. Exactly the way that the server meshing will work. The only difference is that now you have multiple servers talking with one another, but all of the other architecture is already in place. So if they can get 100, 200 or more players per server 318, they're going to try to do it because they want to have that number of people in game with those 4 servers per shard. Because if they can get 400 people per server, that means that those people spread out over 2 systems, 2 big fucking systems, it won't feel as empty. So there needs to be some kind of increase of player cap with 318, if not 4.0, but there's not going to be much difference between 318 and 4.0. There's no fundamental differences because of how they're going to work like that. Did Tomato Crew show up? Pray for 225 servers? Yeah. That's literally how like these things are developed. Eventually, with dynamic server meshing, it'll be a little bit easier to fix all of these problems. But you're still going to want to have the maximum cap per shard to be the number of players you can have per server. Somewhere around that. So knowing that, it wouldn't surprise me. Let me see what it said. But isn't 318 more likely to negatively impact servers due to all the persistent items? No, because those persistent items aren't saved on the DGS. They're saved on the PES. They're not saved on the dedicated game servers. They're saved on the persistent entity streaming service. Player cap increases to 51. It's an increase, but it would be rather underwhelming. Yeah, I think the minimum we're getting is 60, which is the former high. We actually used to have 60 players per server. Gen 12 should increase the server cap. It should as well. Yeah. Hope for high, aim low, yeah. At the very least, they said that they want to get 100 players per server with the initial release of 4.0. So at the very least, 318 is going to have 100. Because they're not going to increase the number of players for 4.0 with, because again, it has to deal with number of players per server. They might, because when you spread out the resources, the entities over 4 servers rather than just one for the maps, it makes it a little bit easier to deal with it, but yeah. If we had 60, why did they drop it? Because we had 60 with like Crusader and Hurston, and that was it. When they increased the number of entities spawned, that increased the number of things the server had to track. And as the server had to track it, they reached their memory limits. And that's one of the reasons why having persistent entity streaming is important, because it removes a lot of that data tracking away from the dedicated game servers to a backend service, which will then be able to reload in at a certain point. Hold up, today's Thursday. How are you doing? I'm doing good. Well, I'm doing this a little earlier because I was doing an experiment. So, question: what's your favorite planet in lore? Tohill has become my favorite planet, just because of its weird Wild West nature. It's a freaking lawless town, a lawless planet in an unclaimed space where smugglers meet routinely between both Xi'an and human smugglers and Bandu smugglers. It's kind of on a near Bandul space. It's sort of like Wild West. It's Tombstone, but built on flower beds, because all of the Tohills doesn't have land masses. It has these botanical mats which grow in the water, and so you're literally like on you're literally floating on like dead flowers. What experiment, may I ask? So, first off, I'm streaming to both YouTube and Twitch, so that's an experiment, and I've added some new stuff to some alert stuff for YouTube. I also premiered my latest video on lore, which was my first ever video on the lore of a specific system. Well, I guess not technically. I did that also with Stanton, but a new sub-series of videos that I'm doing called System Survey, where I take a look at the lore of individual systems, because a lot of people have asked me to do that, because the Loremaker's Guide to the Galaxy is old, often out of date, and we have a lot of new information, and people love the Loremaker's Guide to the Galaxy videos where they talk about the systems. So I decided, why not? I'll start doing some of that stuff. So I premiered that, and because I'd seen some discussions on dumping people off of your premiere for a video onto a live stream that you're doing, or doing a live stream and then dumping it into a premiere, into a video. You can do those sorts of things with YouTube. I wanted to experiment with that. So. I'd have to disagree. Never seen more than 5 or 6 people running around at most. At 1x people out mining, fighting, doing missions, just not hang out in one mission area. Hey, Ricky Bobby. My favorite station has to be Spider. Can't wait to visit the Freetown. Oh, I love Spider. Spider's great. I love Star Citizen always has nice, there's always a nice dynamic mesh. Like Castra is great. It's fucking great. It's a frontier fort that was literally a fortress that's been turned into Disneyland. It's like a historical monument now. Still an active military base, but it's like a historical monument. It's completely different from what its original role was. And then you have places like Nyx, with Levski, with the People's Alliance of Levski. You've got places like Nexus, which is this basically quagmire of dumb. So. Sadly, Luigi, I can't keep this time slot forever, because I have to go back to work in 2 weeks. I'll do this again on next Tuesday, though, to see if people like it. But normally speaking, I only do these sorts of this time zone on weekends, on Saturday and Sunday. But. Question: after more planetary systems are implemented into the game, is CIG planning to add black holes that will yeet you from random systems? No, but there is one single black hole system. The black hole system is, I forgot the name of it. Tamsa. Thank you, Galactic. Yeah, all the planets are super interesting, not just snow, lava, or desert. Yeah, they have major dominating features, but the CIG does a good job of making each planet feel a lot more than just one biome, a handful of biomes, so. The South has the weirdest school seasons. They don't start until the 1st of September in New England. Well, this has been something that's been moved more frequently, because the concept is we start on August 15th, and we end in May. The last week of May is the end of our school season. So like June 1st through August 15th is the summer. Personally, I'd like to see school seasons change so that we have 1 month break, a trimester system where we have 1 month break between each major season. So like from September to November, and then from like the end of November, and then December through January is off. And then beginning of January, you start up again, and then it goes to like April, and then you have May off, and then you have like entirely. So then you have June and, July, and August off kind of thing. Like 3 months on, 3 months off. It's not perfect, but you can get something similar to that. Basically, take away the one big long break and take away a lot of the holidays and make it so that it's 1 month per trimester, just completely off, because kids can see the light at the end of the tunnel when they have stuff like that. When they know that, like, hey, this final test is going to give me, like, just got to get this done, and then I'm gone for two to 4 weeks. Good. Like, perfect. And then kids will be a lot more refreshed because they won't have to be working on that. They can still go off and do jobs and stuff like that. It's much more realistic because you don't know, when a working world, you generally don't have all of summer off. And it also prevents kids from losing information, because like the longer breaks, kids tend to lose information because they, like, after about a month or so of losing that quality. So it's one of those concepts that's actually existed for a long time. Like what I just described to you is effectively many school systems in Europe and Asia do that same system. And it works fine. I'm also a big fan of having high school end at 16 or 17 years old and have kind of like a transition from high school to career education at like sophomore year of high school in the US. So instead of junior and senior year just being kind of junior and senior year, you can go, all right, do you want to go work in a profession? Here, we'll send you to a professional school or professional programs inside the high school. You want to go to college? Here's some college prep classes you're going to take. You're going to get you ready to college and let you go off to go to college. I think that's a better use of kids' time. We waste a lot of kids' time in college or in schools. Just a lot of bullshit we throw at them for no reason. What I miss on a Tuesday in my work hours? Sorry, man. Just experiments. Are internal hangers instanced? Not yet, but the plan is to eventually be. Whatever happened to driver's ed in high school? Some schools do have it. I've taught at schools that have driver's ed as an optional class. The problem is that driver's ed is a monthly class, so it's only about a month to 2 months of class, and the typical semester in an American high school is what? 18 months or 18 weeks. So 18 months, more than a school year, more than an actual year, 18 weeks. So, like 3 to 4 months. The school system isn't bad. It just needs improvements. The problem about that is that you can't get anyone to agree on it because it's become an entrenched political issue. Can confirm the school is terrible. I still attend. Yeah. I had no clue what I was doing with my life in high school, which is fine. But if you left high school with the ability to work in a profession like plumber or auto mechanic or electrician, something like that. Even if you didn't want to do that as your lifetime goal, it would have given you some skills you could use to earn money at the very least until you wanted to figure out what you want to do. And if you're like, hey, I just want to go to college, I don't know what I want to do, then just here's some realistic experiences with college. Because one of the things that I know doesn't really prepare kids very well is, and this is not Star Citizen related at all, I'm sorry, I'm going to teacher brain, is 9 to 5. It works well for like work, but it doesn't work well for school, for like college realities. Because anyone who's been to college will tell you college classes are all over the place. You could have a class at 9 o'clock in the morning and then another class that doesn't happen until 4 p.m. So you've got these large time, you have so much more free time in college than you do when you're doing like 4 to 8 classes a day, 9 to 5 every day, or 9 to 7 to 3 or whatever. Like you are on that train of you got to do that work. It's not the case with college. Most colleges, you get 4 or 5 classes and they're spread out over the week at random times, depending when the professor is available for those. And that sort of experience is something that requires your mentality to shift. When you have that much more free time, you need to learn how to utilize it better. And a good place to learn how to use that is where you can fail, like in high school. Isn't that what vocational schools are for? Yes, that is true. The problem is that vocational schools cost money. A lot of money. And not everyone can necessarily get them. And we also have a dearth, we have a lack of vocational education, like lack of people with those specific jobs, like welding and heck, even things like phlebotomist, pharmacist assistants, like those sorts of jobs, which you don't really think about, which are necessary, but you don't even have that. So. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being in the IT field. You just gotta have the skills for it. And like I said, high school and schools in general are not designed to make sure you know everything you want to do from the beginning of your life. But being prepared in a way that is meaningful, that'll help you with what you're going to experience right after high school, no matter what, is probably a better use of kids' time than learning about physics. Physics is great. It's an important thing to understand some basic physics, but you don't need to learn about like expanded pre-college physics if you're going to go off and be a nurse. There may be some crossover there, but not much. You want to run a business? I don't think you need to know about like biochemistry. But because of the pushing of things like STEM, mandatory for everybody, this is where the jobs are, this is where the jobs are. It's like, yeah, but like not every kid wants that. High schools in America teach you everything, so you leave knowing nothing. Exactly. I was hoping you would leave Pyro by now and take a vacation so I could raid your base while you're away. It is cool, but not everyone wants it. Not everyone wants to learn biochem. There's no reason why a kid who wants to end up being an economist or a business person or a construction manager needs to know biochemistry. What's the lore behind the shipwreck on MT Frozen Waters? MT Frozen Waters? Shipwreck? I don't know what you're referring to, Wanted. Yeah, I know Microtech, but like, what are you referring to in terms of Microtech's shipwreck? I don't know of anyone that's on the like on a lake or anything like that. It's probably brand new if it's a reclaimer wreck. Anyways, let's get back into the Star Citizen topic. We should choose what we want to learn. That's the point. That's what I'm saying, is effectively kind of do what a college does, where your first 2 years is general education, and then the last 2 years is your chosen major. Same thing. You do the same thing with high school, where the last 2 years is finding and deciding on something you want to learn for your when you leave high school, sort of thing. There's a mention of a ship in lore found about a frozen wreck of a ship in one of the frozen water bodies of Microtech that no players found yet. Is it even in game yet? Are we talking about the part of the ship that's? Are we talking about the Artemis? Because that's not lore. That's a story. Because there is a lore piece or a story piece that mentions of a piece of a ship discovered in the mining in a very cold place, which people assume is Microtech, in Stanton, which was then by Art Corp, by Shubin, finding it. And that's what you're asking. Or are we talking about the most recent It Came From Beyond Saturn one? AstroPub, so we have been seeing some Zeus love lately. Do you think we will be getting an Asperia Zeus RSI Classic line sale anytime soon? No, I don't think so. I do think we'll see a Zeus model at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing some Zeus stuff for they do some Zeus stuff for like Rex, because that'd be kind of a cool thing to do, is to stumble upon a Zeus wreck somewhere in like Pyro. Not necessarily flyable, but just you can find it, you know? I mean, I'm a big fan of having things like I said on Captain's Table, which I don't think is out until tomorrow, this section, the Q&A section. Like, I'd love to see a use for those convention centers other than just the main events, like weekly farmers market or weekly flea market, where like on Sundays you can go to the flea market and buy some rare stuff or sell rare stuff that you have for unique things. Or I'm also a big fan of things like building museums and attractions. Like, this is gonna sound dumb because we've got so many other things we got to worry about, but something like a theme park. Like a theme park in Microtech or in Art Corp. You know? That makes sense. That's something that would make the universe feel like it's alive, that it's a place you'd want to go to, rather than just being a static backdrop to a space game. But that would require a fuck ton of work that they don't want to have to put in yet. I get why. But those sorts of things. Not necessarily Roller Coaster Tycoon and Star Citizen, but roller coasters, yeah. Or like a zoo. You know? A zoo. Somewhere you have a zoo where you can go visit and you can see different different animals. Bingo. A museum, a zoo. I mean, we've got the freaking Crusader has the like whale watching. You can go see the storm walls as part of a tour. You could actually go onto a tour which will tour you through all of the production facilities. You can also go out to the tour which will go take you to well, I guess we already kind of exist. That kind of exists. But then you have a tour that can go see, you know, storm walls. What's up? Office hours and not the VOD. Yeah, we're doing a little earlier there, Calgen. So thank you again for being a member. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, I do have memberships open. It gives you early access to some videos. Effectively, like on a captain's table, I'll record it on a Saturday, live on Twitch, and then I'll just put it directly up on YouTube. But then I have to wait a couple of days before. Usually I'll release something on Saturday, so I have to wait at least 2 to 3 days before I put it up. But for those of you who are members, you get the access to that instantly. The second I put it up on YouTube, upload it, it'll be available for members. Plus, you can support if you want to be able to support me financially. You can do that as well. That's an easy way to do it. So. Link is in the description below, but it's also for those of you watching on YouTube, should be right above, like there. Hey, Star Jump, how you doing? Hey, doing Grim. Collectible models with past ships or hangar flare items. We actually had that. We actually have collectible ship models in game. Like, no joke, including a Zeus. But they were hangar flare, and they haven't really adapted them for us to be able to move them around. So I'm doing okay. Yeah, this is kind of an experiment, just kind of hanging out and talking about that. So office hours, hang out and talk. But yeah, the big news is we may actually be getting more players. We're almost certainly going to be getting more players per server with 317.2. Question is, we don't know quite yet. All right, back to reading This Week in Star Citizen. In case you missed it, Friday, our community team held a competitive construction clash, Battle of the Bricks, with the EVE Online community team building spaceships with Legos while undergoing excruciating challenges along the way. We raised money for charity Extra Life to support Children's Miracle Network hospitals, which made tasting the Icelandic delicacy of wolffish, or one of the hottest sauces on Earth, well worth it. We hope that everyone watching had a great time as we celebrated and shared passions for space games. And don't forget, the donations for Extra Life are still open until late December. There we go. That was a pretty funny one. Pretty interesting one. Now what's going on this week? Tuesday, so today, we have the monthly Galactopedia update, which has not happened yet. It usually happens a little bit later in the afternoon. And then on Thursday, we've got... I'm just... fist pumping because we got Star Citizen, Inside Star Citizen started coming back on Thursday with a look at the Centurion and River Tech. Updates to River Tech on 318, which is nice. On Friday, we'll receive a weekly RSI newsletter delivered to your inbox, and subscribers can look forward to the subscriber vault and the July issue of Jump Point. I always love that because there's always more lore in Jump Point when they do that. Also, new episodes of Star Citizen Live on Twitch. Update, we're also going to have Star Citizen Live episodes we're not going to have Star Citizen Live this episode this week as the team's still recovering from the wolffish encounter from last Friday. Have an excellent week. So we're not going to have an SEL on Friday. Okay. But yeah, weekly newsletter, subscriber vault update, Jump Point, Galactopedia. It's all pretty good. Can I put a clipper? Yeah, you should be able to. Are there generation ships in Star Citizen lore? Yes, Artemis. The Artemis is the only generation ship that we know of. It was lost with all hands about 600 years ago, but they were all in cryogenic stasis, so we don't know where they went. How did your Twitter poll end up? Last I saw, Castro had the least number of votes. Made me realize most people don't subscribe to your theory that it'll be after Nyx. Yeah, most people, because most people don't. I get why. Most people believe earnestly that we're going to get Squadron 42 by the time Nyx is released. And I do not subscribe to that hopium. That brand of hopium is not my brand. So. Okay, let me take a look at this.
Yes, and
All right, let me pull this up and restart it. Oh, wait. Muted the actual.
They alluded to a capital ship under the ice a long time ago, and we looked for it. Nobody ever found it, as far as I know. Yes, And, you know, I could be wrong. Maybe it never made it in, but they alluded to a capital ship under the ice a long time ago, and we looked for it. Nobody ever found it, as far as I know.
I would need a reference to the lore that he's referencing, because I don't remember any mentions of a capital ship under the ice of Microtech. The only thing I can remember is that there was a piece of the Artemis found in a story that ended up not being canon. It was like a story within a story. It was like a pulp fiction novel that people could read. Am I a dev? Nope. Not a dev. I know a lot of devs, but not a dev. I have this weird fucking curse where like people who come hang out in my stream, like a year after they start watching me, they end up becoming Star Citizen developers. More than a handful of people in this chat right now are Star Citizen developers who are watching me right now. And I knew like way before they became Star Citizen devs. I was like, God fucking damn it. And I'm sure they all joined Star Citizen CIG and were like, Paul, this is nothing like you said you said the development was. We had C Daddy was here earlier. Yeah, he's probably still watching in the background. We're all Star Citizen developers if you think about it. Yeah. People were asking him where to read about it, but that's what he got. I'd have to look it up, look up details. I haven't seen anything of that. You want to work for CIG when you graduate? I mean, they're hiring, they're hiring a fuck ton of people, so it's possible. You just have to. You'd probably they don't really do it remote. You'd have to live in Austin, in LA, Manchester, or Frankfurt. See? There he is, C Daddy. Someone asked me if I was a dev, and I was like, no, but everyone, I have this curse where people show up to my chat and a year later they end up becoming CIG devs. So I should quit my job now because we know that CIG devs will all be CIG devs in a couple months. No. Bad. Yeah, 129 open positions. The racing community are basically CIG now. They invented the snake pit. Yeah. Yeah, remote positions are few and far between. Yeah. Wait, does that mean I could end up working for CIG? It could be. My fan theory is the Artemis will be in Gliese 667C, the system it was heading for. Seeing as how it's not on the Arc star map, it will be later patch added. I could see that. I could see them, people finding a jump point and finding a fully functioning human civilization that's existed for 600 fucking years in isolation. Can I work in CIG Austin making people coffee for tips? Sadly, no. They don't have a coffee machine. They don't have in LA. They have a barista. The Austin office is too small for that. I don't know if there's a correlation between hanging out here and becoming a CIG dev, but a lot of future CIG devs tend to hang out here. For some reason. Which is also dangerous because it means they listen to me, which you should never do. Oh my God, I just realized it's guaranteed CIGs watch the live streams because they were fans before joining CIG. Yeah, Jordan. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if half, if not more, CIG employees are former fans who became CIG devs. Just would not shock me in the slightest. I'm always so pale. Yeah, I gotta turn the brightness just a little bit. More. You and my skin. I imagine the interview. I imagine at the interview this is playing in the background. Don't listen to Paul. He doesn't know shit. So when is wipe so I can book time off work? Manzafish. Best. It's when 317.2 goes live, and we have no fucking idea when that is. It could happen this Friday. It could happen next week. It could happen a month from now. We don't know. So CIGs are watching this. Hey, how about size 3 guns on my Andromeda's turrets, please? Not all of them are in charge of those sorts of things. A lot of them are just fixing things. All right, I'm going to be right back, y'all. Don't go anywhere. Spam the chat with stuff. I forgot to grab something real quick.
News, everyone.
2 words. Distress bacon. 2 words. Distress bacon.
Weapons free, y'all. Hello, I like money. Barcelona! Barcelona! Hello, I like money.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Cajita's wares, if you have coin.
Drugs.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot.
Bounty hunting is a
Drugs.
complicated profession. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Barcelona! Weapons free,
Drugs.
y'all.
Two words. Distress bacon.
It was at this moment that he knew.
I like money.
He fucked up.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
2 words. Distress bacon.
Cajita's wares, if you have coin.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot. Barcelona! Good news, everyone.
Cajita's wares, if you have coin.
Hello, I like money.
Drugs.
It was at this moment that he knew.
Drugs.
He fucked up.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Good news, everyone.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
I'm back, chat. You can
Weapons
stop
free, y'all.
spamming it. Quickly, history men, start making lore videos with slightly falsified info slowly after the lore of Star Citizen. That way the future CIGFs will be fooled.
Drugs.
You came in just time, this spam audio. Perfect time for you there, Q-Pan. Sly-Fi, I believe the mystery ship he's talking about is the unknown object inside the ice floe in the Anvil Carrick Flyable Now commercial at the 120 mark. That's not Microtech though. We don't know where that planet is. Or you just end up gaslighting the entire lore team into misremembering their own lore. I sometimes worry that I do that. That I'll say something and on a video, and some lore team member who watches it goes, "Oh, that sounds about right." Yeah, it's a good day. It's a good week for lore because we're going to get a lot of stuff. We're going to get Galactopedia updates, which we'll talk about here. I'll do a capsule for it for office hours. And then we're also getting a Jump Point release, so that's always good. I was surprised Dave Haddock remembered most of what you talked about with him. His brain must be filled with so much lore. Well, the problem with the narrative team is also, as somebody who is a creative and try to do stuff on my own as well, things like, just things like D&D campaigns. Hell, if you created your own universe for a D&D campaign, you know what I'm talking about. You forget what you've told people and what is publicly known and what is not publicly known. So you got to filter everything in your brain to make sure that everything sounds right about what's been released and not. So, how long until we get Lightning Bolt Company based BDSM electricity play-in game? Soon. Lightning Bolt Company is coming out with an SMG and a sniper rifle, I believe. Both of which are currently, they showed it off in the Sneakily Peekly, but they're actually being worked on for Squadron. So. Make notes. So many notes. Yeah. As a professional team, I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. You don't want to blow. You don't want to cause your players to not remember, or you want to remember what your players did, but you also want to remember what you've told the players, and you want to make sure you don't tell them the wrong information for recaps and stuff like that. Those are Volt weapons, not Lightning Bolt Company. Okay. Yeah, Volt is different, isn't it? Lightning Bolt Company just makes deadly ones. Volt is probably, I don't know. We actually don't know a lot about Volt. Let me do a quick search for it. Let's look up the lore behind Volt real quick. Verified Off-World Laser Technologies is a human manufacturer of energy weapons. The company specializes in producing handheld and ship-based weaponry on existing and proven technology rather than investing in an internal research department to innovate, like many other competitors. This has allowed them to offer products at below market rates and makes them a popular choice amongst purchasers who are cost-conscious. These lower prices may also be indicative of lower quality manufacturing technique, as the company has frequently been plagued with reliability complaints. However, formal investigations of the product in 2939 did not reveal a higher than average rate of failure. The Volt lineup includes the weapons such as the Zenith Sniper Rifle, Prism Shotgun, Pulse Energy Pistol, and Stinger Repeating Laser. Also, the Fresnel SMG, the Parallax Rifle, which is an assault rifle, and the Quartz SMG. You show you all the Parallax rifle. It's an electron-based assault rifle. Boom. Do we know what kind of damage type electron is? Is that the same as the Lightning Bolt Company? I can see how it's cheaply made. So this is a deadly energy, like deadly directed energy, like a lightning gun rather than a stun gun. Let me pull up the other. And find the Sneakily Peekly. I think I have it on my downloaded here. Here we go. A little low res, but you know, you can see it here. You have the Volt SMG and the Volt rifle there. Oh, that's the sniper rifle. Yeah, yeah. I'll pull this up. I actually have subscriber access, so I should be able to see it. Hey, thank you for that $2. Can I fit a mule in my Freelancer comfortably? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily. Mule could fit probably, Freelancer could probably fit 2 mules, to be honest.
Hey, a tip.
There we go.
Sans, super chatted $2. Can I fit a mule in my Freelancer comfortably?
Yes. Yes, you can. Easily. Got a side loading magazine. Holy shit. Looks ad hoc as shit. I love it. A Gauss rifle. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, subscription is great if you like I do it for the lore, but like, let me go through the vault. For instance, I can see the Pyro Space Station's waste, Pyro Spacescaping, Pyro 3 Spacescaping, Drake Corsair Mess Hall, Drake Corsair Interiors, the Gray Box for the Abandoned Merchantman, Reclaimer Derelicts, work in progress. I can see the Reclaimer Derelicts, work in progress. Colonialism Outpost, White Box and Gray Box. Derelict Concepts, work in progress. Character facial features. I don't know how old this is. Yeah, there's tons of stuff you can get. Any sniper rifle that points a VFX finger at the shooter is stupid, though. A VFX finger? What's a visual effects finger? Oh, you're talking about like a you could see back at them. You can see where it came from. FG42 aesthetic. Want to see toxic damage? Yes, with goo guns. Yeah, haven't they? Recoilless rifles have been a thing for a while. So the idea of having of taking a recoilless rifle and turning it into a Gauss rifle wouldn't be too difficult. Maybe not man portable, but at least like an anti-materiel weapon. Hey, Esquire, how you doing? Why an Indian voice? So it started off with I didn't know what the hell to put in the voices as, and then at the time I was doing a lot of the setups way back in the day. The Expanse season 1 had come through, and Avasarala is a real one. So I just found one that would be the closest I could get to Avasarala, and that just ended up having to be like the same name for all of them. So. Doing good. The lightning bolt telling you exactly where you concentrate your fire. Exactly. I can see the purposes of them, though, because, like, generally speaking, if you're firing something like that in a ship, there's going to be a lot of conductivity around a person, so you could easily hit a large group of people. So you don't need to but fire one shot and take care of multiple peoples in a confined hallway. And having a sniper rifle that has a longer range for those sorts of shots makes sense in the sense that, you know, it's designed to take out a group. So the Platon Stanton is, so Wanted Tiger, I'm going to give you the example of that. That is actually not lore. What you just told me was the plate from, it's an engine plate from the Artemis. And that is actually not lore. It's not canon. What it is it's like Indiana Jones. And that's where it gets confusing. Because the stories of the person who is Tanya, I forgot her last name, but the Lost Generation is where that's from. All of those stories that are like novels are actually novels in lore. They're not real. They're not like news articles. Yeah, it's not lore. But the problem is you have to separate it out between the stories and the lore. Because, for instance, anything you hear from the Plain Truth or from, I think, Sure Shot, or anything you hear from Crossfire, something like that. The news snippets are all lore. But the stories that work like a story where you're reading a story of a person is not lore. The only exception to that rule, as far as we know, is the stories about Alex Dugan and the belligerent duck. It's official fiction, yeah. Like a gift from Baba. Yeah, effectively like that. The reason why they do that is because, like, for instance, early stories told in the Star Citizen universe includes things like Kid Crimson and Cassandra's Tears, which has my absolutely favorite character in the Star Citizen universe, which is Cal Mason. He is such a complete caricature, and I love him. Now, does Kid Crimson actually exist? Does Cal Mason exist? Yes, there are actual people in the Star Citizen universe, but these are kind of like dime store novel versions of their lives. So Tanya O'Neill, I think her name is, or something like that, she is a real archaeologist. She actually does exist. But the stories you read about her are over-dramatized tales or completely made-up tales with using her as the backdrop as the person. So think of it as like dime store novels of the Wild West with like Billy the Kid and, Wyatt Earp and these famous outlaws of the Old West, or famous gangsters of the 1920s. They all have movies and books written about them, which are somewhat biographical, but they're often blown up out of proportion.
2 words. Distress bacon.
So. Or that RSI Apollo movie. Yeah. Yeah. It gets super confusing. The reason why it's confusing is because it's not clearly stated anywhere that this is not canon. So people take stories like Lost Generation or Whispers in the Dark and think that they're canon. And the reason why they're not canon is less because they don't want it to be canon, and more because it was written so early that they introduced a lot of concepts that they knew they were going to have to get rid of. Like Cal Mason has fucking references to just Anvil as a ship. Like there's just the Anvil ships, completely separate from the Hornet, which is different, and they're complete, like names are completely different. There's so many different things. So no, the Apollo Medivac exists. It's just the Apollo Medivac has a movie that's based off of it, and that movie is mostly fiction. Did we just get a bunch of people? We did, didn't we? Unknown Guardian, thank you so much for gifting that those 5 subs, and Azkabar, thank you so much for that 9 months. Y'all rock. Thanks so much, y'all. Yeah, smart way to retcon without throwing stuff entirely, like the dubious BattleTech cartoon becoming a lore propaganda cartoon. Yeah. Quick question: if someone would sub to RSI's website somewhere halfway through the month, do you still get rewards for that month? Yes, you get rewards for whatever month you've subscribed for. So if you subscribed for the month of September, you get everything that would come for that month. But the next time your monthly subscription would come up, you would no longer get anything the next level. So yeah, alerts are off for office hours. Usually I have them up for regular streams, and I'm testing this out because alerts are on for YouTube. So when someone subscribes on YouTube or someone gets a membership on YouTube, it'll down here, you'll see a little alert pop up. I'm testing it out to see if it's distracting or if I can actually see what's going on. Because if I can see what's going on, then I'll do that for YouTube, for Twitch as well, just not the audio for everything. If you're a concierge, do you get the monthly rewards anyway, even if you aren't subbed? No, you have to be subscribed to get the monthly rewards. You get some benefits for being concierge, but it's not the monthly reward. Any progress on your ship manufacturer manga? Sort of and sort of not. This month is kind of off because I've got so many, I'm redoing all of my emotes for Twitch and YouTube. So I'm getting that overhaul done, which is very expensive. So probably this coming month, like August and September, I'll probably have more ships for the for the Quantum Stellar waifu. For those of you who don't know, if you are a Patreon of mine, you will get access to Quantum Stellar, which is I do this once a month. The concept is I created lore for an in-game game that is heavily based off of gachamon style games, like mobile games. For those of you who don't know what a gacha game is, Diablo Immortal. But, you know, most traditional games like Arc Knights, Azure Lane, those sorts of, you know, styles, what I was aping off of, just because I wanted something that wasn't just Western straight stuff. Also came from a joke because people joked about ship manifest, like incarnations of people, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to hire artists and have them do that. So I've had a couple of artists make some of those pictures. So check to see if you're subscribed. In the grim darkness of the far future, there will be gacha games. I mean, it sounds like that, but I don't remember what they're called. It's like gacha. It's like gachamon, because it's actually from, I don't remember the exact term from it, but it's from a Japanese concept of these little toys that you'd get in not vending machines, in those like little capsules. You'd like put a quarter in, you'd twist it out, and you'd get like a random little figurine. People would like collect those, and you could wanted to get the whole thing, which is where things like Pokemon would evolve out of in terms of as a concept. And that sort of idea evolved into what we see as the free-to-play genre of mobile games. With, you know, you can get different characters and you can get them different outfits and that kind of thing. Yeah, capsule toys, yeah. But the term in Japanese is gashomon, gashomon, or something like that. Can't pronounce it directly, but it's effectively gachamon. The shorthand version of it is just gacha games. Gotcha. Yeah, thank you. It's the reason why people use the term gacha as a game concept is mostly to do with weebs, but also to do with that the Japanese pioneered a lot of that idea. Eventually, it was exported to the West, and the West would do similar things in the 50s and 60s. But I think it was the concept originally came from Japan, where you'd have to go to like a specific store and you just try your luck. Magic the Gathering effectively stole this concept for card packs. Same idea. CIG's website is broken. So if you're getting monthly rewards and you're not subscribed, then you're fine. I've done hydrating. Already drank all of this. Yeah. I tend to drink about an Nalgene worth of water per stream. Helps mitigate my hunger. Gosh, we had 90 people peak. 95 people. Nice. So why do you think we won't get next after Pyro, even though Daymar's already done? Delamar, you mean? No, we will get Nyx after Pyro. Oh, I'm sorry, YouTube. YouTube was at 95 at one point. It's now like at 59, 62, something like that. Saying different metrics here. 60. Do you think that if they can fix Siege of Orison on time, we would get a player lawful, unlawful mission kind of thing against each other with 100 player cap? Nah, that takes too much time. Maybe in the future, but we'll see. Lore video on the Big Benny Noodles soon. I plan on doing kind of a mini lore kind of roundup. I want to bring back the shorts where I do kind of a little short on a specific company or something like that. But Big Benny Noodles doesn't have enough lore to justify a full video, but it does justify like a small video. And then eventually take all those shorts and compile them into one video. Problem is that shorts are phone aspect ratio, so. Want more lore videos in civilian life in general? I'd love to do those. Here's the problem, y'all. I'm going to be very honest with you. People tend to like systems and ships. They don't like people. They don't like events, historical events, and they tend to not like news really, other than like if it has to do with the game. People love ships and they love combat, they love war, and they like system stories, like stories of like entire planetary systems, solar systems. Because I've done things on like the government, like Addison, and it just didn't do well. I just think they're neat. Well, that's just the reality. Like, I understand it. I'm not like sitting here like, God damn it. It's just like, those are what people want to hear. So every so often I'll do like little bits like that, little discussions on those sorts of things. People like companies too, but politics is boring. Oof. Would you do a makeshift lore with the captain pilot Astro Shelley of the Reclaimer pilot derelict on MT? No. Do you think concierge members should get LTI on the further ship pledges as a reward? Maybe. I mean, my problem is I think LTI is dumb. I think LTI should be extended to every single player who purchases anything, because FOMO is a shitty way of selling your product. Just make sure your product works. That's all. I also think that if someone pays more than $45, they should automatically get a ship package or game package. You know? How came to be colonized, etc. Yeah, seen that with Elite 2. If ain't getting a gun or something exciting to be involved, most people don't care. People I'll take a look right now at the at my video for Castra system. I almost guarantee you it's doing pretty well. Probably not my best, but I'd be saying maybe 5, 7, yeah. It's a solid okay. Like, it'll end up getting about maybe 2,000, 3,000 views. But it's never going to do as well as the 5 biggest ships of the UEE. Where the thumbnail was just this thing one-shots capital ships. Fucking 5,000 views in 2 days. Which isn't a lot in YouTube standards, but for me, that's the best video I've done in a long time. Still waiting on the ability to game without a ship package for those of us who with ships who need friends to play. I don't know if they'll ever do that. They've even said that they may not do that. So, yeah, exactly. A lot of people are watching the stream right now, so I haven't watched it yet. But I don't think it will never do as well as my lore, as like my ship lore stuff. Just because people are interested in it, they're not that interested. Question, have you gotten offers from CIG to voice an in-game NPC? If you haven't, would you? Yeah, if CIG wanted me to voice an in-game NPC, I'd love to do that, but no, they haven't. I really enjoyed the video. Thank you, Esquire. You will get the opportunity to buy an F8C, maybe F8A in the PU if you beat Squad 42 in a special way. Yeah. I think you get the ability to buy an F8C if you just complete the game. But you don't get the ship, Sekai. You don't get the ship. You get the ability to purchase it in-game. It unlocks it for, like, that sort of thing. I want Paul in the game. Come on, CGI. CIG, not CGI. Would love to see lore become part of the Star Citizen lore somehow. I mean, yeah, maybe. If we can find some rare thing and put it in a museum. Do you think there should be unique items in game that exist only once in the game? That'd be indestructible collectibles, of course. Yeah, I'd love to see stuff like that. Honestly, I'd love to see rare runs. Like something that will only show up. Like the fact that those artifacts that you find at outposts, they very rarely show up. When they do, they're only worth 100 UEC. They're worth nothing. It's like, they should be worth thousands of UEC to find them. People would be scouring these places to find them for more money. But they're so rare in terms of like the loot chance, the drop chance, that, you know, it'd be difficult to get that. Or Picoballs. Yeah, Picoballs should be worth just so much money. Question. But do you care just about statistics, or do you want to do stuff you enjoy? It's an unhelpful dichotomy. To be honest about content creation has to be a balance of what you enjoy and what people want to see. Because the more people who watch or subscribe or, you know, follow or, you know, become a member, those sorts of things help me out. Because it helps me, that money can help me offset some of my costs. If I could do this full time, I would. If I had the ability to do so, but the only way I can do this full time is if people are watching, people are paying me money, and I'm consistently doing things that people, and growing consistently. So I can get sponsorships and that sort of things. So I'd love to do it on my own, but I'd also love to grow and continue to make money off of this sort of thing. I don't make nearly any money off of this comparatively to, say, nearly any money as even working as a teacher. Teachers don't get paid shit, but I make more money and I get health insurance with teaching. What I saw so far, do what people want and you can grow fast, but you also burn out. Do what you love and you can grow slower, but it's going to be more enjoyable and sustainable in the long run. That's also a bit overgeneralized. There is a case that what you love to do, no one cares. And like, I enjoy ship lore. I enjoy lore in general. So doing things like, people want my list videos, I'll fucking do a list video because they're cool, they're easy for me to do, and I like doing them. I don't sit there and go, oh, I hate doing these videos. I like doing them. But there is other parts of the universe I'd love to explore and do videos on that I can't really do as often because it'll hurt my overall statistics, which will then cause more chain reactions. I don't want to say it's naive to think like that, but I want to say that it depends on your approach. If you want to just make shit because you want to make shit because the goblin in your brain is screaming at you to make stuff and so you just do it, then do what the fuck you want. That doesn't matter. But if you want to do this beyond just that sort of need an outlet for your creativity, you need to kind of have a little bit more of a tactical way of looking at it. I mean, I did a video. My last week was my worst week on YouTube in a long time. I released 2 videos which did absolute garbage in comparison. So yeah, I have no problem doing stuff that's not as popular, but I can't do that all the time. Because the question is, the other thing is, I don't know what's popular or not. So I could do a video on Addison that could blow the fuck up because something about the title, something about the topic just interests people. But so far, not a lot of people care about the current imperator. I think when you have things like more in-game events, lore starts adding up a little bit more, and I think it's once Star Citizen releases the beta and blows up entirely, channels like yours will become foundations of the YouTube community for Star Citizen. That's my hope. Also, please, the algorithm factors into that. Yeah, I have up controlling that I gave up controlling that goblin and have a whole channel of next to 0 views. It was fun though. Learned how to edit videos. Except there's different approaches to it. There's no one way it's better or not. It's just what your overall goal is at the end. Oh yeah, that Starfield video did fucking awful. I mean, I know my standards are different, but 1,000 views is it was the worst video I'd released in terms of performance. And the Starfield video before that only got 1,000 views a month after it was first released. Well, that's actually one of the reasons why, you know, I'm surprised the video on your Van Duel you did a month ago didn't pop off. It was easily the best video you'd ever produced. The reason why I switched my channels was because that video was doing well. But then I released another video like the day after that, and a day or two after that, and it killed its growth. Because the algorithm didn't give it enough time to breathe. Because I didn't give enough time for the algorithm to figure out what the fuck it was. It did not grow. But yeah, that is 100% part of the reason lore videos probably don't do well is because the casual follower / gamer and the lore is pretty inaccessible. It is. It's not in the game. But it's one of those catch-22s. I like lore because I like history and stories. I am not just a Star Citizen lore buff. I also watch and listen to 40K lore, Fallout lore, Star Trek lore, Star Wars lore. I think there's a couple other ones that I'm just off the back of my head that I haven't seen recently. I cycle through a lot of these different lore things, you know, BattleTech. And as a result, I try to use, like, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do Star Citizen lore is because I could see that lore is a topic that's evergreen. People always love to see it. I like doing the stuff like that. And we're at a stage where Star Citizen doesn't really, it has lore, but it doesn't really have any way of hooking players into that story, into that universe, other than through its visuals. So people who do lots of visual content do better because their visual content represents what the game is right now. And it's pretty cool and it's beautiful, all that kind of stuff. Eventually, when the story starts to be drawn in, people start to see it's like the Van Duel invading in places, or the UE having to respond to them, or conflicts going on between factions in the game that you get to play and experience, those sorts of things, or Squadron 42, people will start to look into why this is the case. What's going on here? What's the story behind this? And I can either wait until that happens, which could be today, could be tomorrow, it could be this next patch, it could be 4 years from now, and wait to do it then, or I can start looking at the lore and building up that stuff now. I figured I'm having fun. It doesn't take a ton of time. People want to, there are a small core of people who want to see this. I'll just do it. So. The virgin casual gamer versus the Chad lore enjoyer. Why play a game when I can read about it? When the current imperator actually affects things in game, people will start caring more. Exactly. And that's just the thing. So I'm not too upset about it. You know, it's not meant as like a oh gosh, it's just my brain works in that kind of, I want to try to grow, and I want to see how I can do that in a way to get people interested in the lore and such like that. Question, sir, what do you expect this year for CitizenCon being their 10-year anniversary and most teams are on Squadron 42? Nothing. This CitizenCon is going to be pretty much a very long inside Star Citizen with no keynote gameplay. It's just going to be various exposés on what they've been working on. I expect it to be at most 2 hours of a 2-hour video. Maybe a little longer, who knows? But I didn't see Jedi Jiffer's question. How far back is it? Yuri asked, what would it take for more civil war between Terra and Earth? Probably some anti-Xeno stuff from Earth. I don't see Jedi Jiffer's question. What is Jedi Jiffer's question? Do you get the feeling that Star Citizen is growing lately? Yes. I've had 3 friends get the game recently and they've been having fun playing. Yeah, it's growing a lot. It's been growing for the last year. This last year has seen fucking insane growth. During the Invictus celebration in June alone, there was over 100,000 people signed up on the website to play. Over 100,000 new accounts. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's 100,000 people, but that's still a shit ton of people. Oh, sorry, wrong person. Oh, okay. For a newbie, what is CitizenCon? Okay, so CitizenCon is an event that represents the beginning of the funding campaign for Star Citizen. So Star Citizen began its funding campaign in October 9th of 2012. Was when they first started doing their not their Kickstarter, but crowdfunding. Eventually they opened up a Kickstarter, but it was before Kickstarter they had their own site. The reason why they did a Kickstarter is because Star Citizen fans did the Star Citizen fan thing, and they hugged the website to death, so they couldn't get people literally couldn't give them their money so they could get it. So they opened up a Kickstarter as another means to getting more money. So since then, October 9th has been the celebration of the start of the funding campaign, which has basically become the anniversary. The beginning of the anniversary. And then what eventually, at the end of that month of Kickstarter, which is November 9th, used to be called the anniversary sale because it was the end of the beginning of the end of the Kickstarter campaign. Kickstarter campaigns last for about a month. And oh gosh, what is it called? It used to be called the anniversary sale. And eventually we could buy all of the ships, even the limited run ships. And that has transitioned into what we today call the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, or the IAE, which is an in-lore event. CitizenCon is also an in-lore event. It's become an in-lore event, which is a celebration of the common man. You can think of it as kind of like the I don't think it's the Foundation, because the Foundation Festival is in July, which I believe it represents the foundation of the UNE. But it's kind of like a Labor Day sort of thing and more. Like last IAE, like last CitizenCon, yeah. In terms of like the actual CitizenCon thing, I don't think we see much. We haven't had an ISC in almost a month, though, so I won't complain. We're getting an ISC this Thursday. It's going to be Chris making spaceship movements with his hands in the entire con. I'd pay for that. Is there any races that we haven't heard of yet in lore? No, because then they wouldn't have told us this yet. If it's not on lore, we haven't heard about it. Is that what you're asking? Invictus broke the game, yeah. The game becomes more and more playable. Just wait until Pyro and it's going to blow up even more. Yeah, it's definitely going to. Question, what kind of ships would you like to see in Star Citizen more? I'd like to see more utility ships. I'd like to see more Jack of all trades, Master of none. More very like open, broad ships. But I'd also like to see some more dedicated profession ships at the smaller level. For instance, we have the Starliner, right? Which is designed for take people from planet to planet or from planet to, just different systems. But even today, we don't just have the 747. We have the 707. We have, not just the 747. We also have Airbus. And we have competitors to that. And you have small like shuttle planes, where like they can only hold a handful of people. So we need something we need that whole range of people mover ships, from very small shuttles to very large competitors to the Genesis and in between. I'd love to see more of that. Star Citizen is snowballing at an insane rate, both in development and growth. Yeah, I mean they're crossing a lot of barriers they haven't thought before. People talk a lot about transitionalist progressivism, but the lone Tavaran senator is Universalist, the superior political party. Generally speaking, transitionalists are progressive and the Universalists are moderate. And a traditional Tavaran, at best, is a moderate. Tavarans are very conservative in terms of their belief systems. They're collectivists, but they're also very much you have a someone who's in charge and tells you what to do. You fucking do it. That's the kind of martial culture of the Tavaran. So a Universalist makes sense. We're all in this together, but listen to the fucking person who's in charge, because you don't want everyone to fucking die. That kind of thing. So, but whereas a transitionalist would be like, hey, let's everything good, but let's talk with the Vanduul. Let's negotiate with the Vanduul. Which is why the Universalists like, you fucking high? We've tried this. They just kill us. The only thing the Vanduul understand is violence, so we got to give them violence. That's the kind of Universalist point of view. But for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, there are 3 political parties in the UAE. They're not the only political parties, but the 3 main parties, which is Universalist, Transitionalist, and Centralist. My brother started playing Star Citizen recently as well. Nice. Celebration of Galactic Delivery Boys. Yes. To think of this game, to think this game may not have happened if not Kickstarter. To agree. I love my Luminalia JPEG. Everyone loves their JPEG from Luminalia. I mean, in-game, just like kind of ship you see, and type doesn't matter. Just be cool, station. Okay, yeah. Varan are subjugated people. We shouldn't turn our hatred towards them. Yeah. Yo, did he say 317 is coming out live? No, I didn't. I said when it comes out live. I don't remember what I said. That's when the wipe is going to happen. Do we have several planets tagged developing? We do not know the species. That we do not know the species. There could be. I haven't seen those. There's a bunch of places that are being investigated, but we don't know if there may be intelligent life, but we don't know. I completely forgot about the Vulcan, and they need more than that. Yeah, they need that to have that for Pyro. Not really. They're doing the Crucible. The Crucible may be available for Pyro, but we'll see. I love to see more civilian ships that are basically a normal car. Yeah, so, like stuff like more starter ships. Stuff that's more like Aurora or Mustang or Avenger or 300, you know? Question, why do they up the player cap in 317.2 when server meshing is just around the corner and will, of course, have completely different netcode? Because that's not how that works, Spike. Upping the player cap has nothing to do with server code. It has everything to do with optimization and with how the game plays. Server meshing is not a complete overhaul of netcode because they've already started that process. They already have the hooks and everything else in place for most systems for server meshing. The thing they need to do is they need to have the persistent entity streaming, the thing that allows information to go to the back end and then be pulled out of the back end to be finished. And that's 318. So the reason why they're increasing the number of players will probably have nothing to do with server meshing in general. It has more to do with performance of the servers themselves and how they handle information. Because they can, as long as they have more memory, they can support more players. More capital and cruisers are needed for not going to make pirate and make it pyro, and I can't what you're saying. Yes, we need more. You're not going to make it in a fighter. No, you're not going to travel pyro in a fighter. You need larger ships or ships that can carry ships. What manufacturer would those ships be? Kruger, Crusader, Drake, Aegis, Anvil, new companies that exist that we haven't heard of in the past. Yeah, we're not going to get 317.2 to live for a while. It's taking longer. It's taking longer and longer, so it's impossible to say. Yeah, for 317.2, yeah, it's hard to tell. Vines are cool, and I want to hang out with them. That's why I have Talon. Yeah, they're pretty cool. The PvP seems to drive Star Citizen. Do you feel that transport and other industries will become more popular as the game progresses, or not? I'm going to be very honest. I like PvP. The people who do PvP are good people that make good content. But what makes good content on Twitch doesn't necessarily, or YouTube, doesn't necessarily mean good content for gameplay. Almost every single PvP-based MMO has failed or has shifted away from PvP to PvE PvP. Every single one. And the reason why is because there's never enough people to support a PvP universe. You need to have other things that people can do and bring more people in. PvP can only happen if you have people to fight. And if people don't want to fight, they'll just not play your game and do something else. So, no, I think as the game continues forward and as more NPCs are added at a more regular basis, you'll see PvP start to coalesce into specific areas of high value or high importance. But generally speaking, you'll have most people drift towards PvE experiences. As long as those PvE experiences are fun, engaging, and can make good and interesting content. Will the mule win a spot from the Argo Cargo this year? It depends. It depends because you have to get the nominations, and those ships that are nominated will then go on to the finals. So whoever gets nominated is the key. First decade of Star Citizen was just building the foundation, effectively. They had to build a company, and they had to build a foundation. They also completely redid development, restarted development in 2016. They'll never say it, they'll never admit to it, but they had to restart development from 2016. Why? Fucking planetary landings. What does conservative mean? I don't know what you're asking there, Namek. I don't know what you're in reference to. The political parties? What party was Mir Nago? That was who I voted for. Transitionalists. Mir Nago was a transitionalist. They're trying to get a release candidate right now, but they don't have it one just yet. Yeah, they're working on it, but... questions. Paul, is there any other faction besides the UEE? For humans? Yeah, but there's no faction as powerful as the UEE. You've got Spider, you've got the People's Alliance of Levski and Nyx, you've got various local authorities like Charon. There's no human polity that is as powerful as the UEE. In terms of other politics outside of UE, yeah, you've got the Xi'an Empire, you've got the Bamu Protectorate, and you have little pockets but you have the Vandul hordes, and then you have the little pockets of Tavaran out there. The hyper-aggressive spacefaring apex predators tend to not lean on diplomacy, despite what Star Trek taught us. Question about sub fighter carrier ship, where you can launch a lot of snub fighters from it. I'd love to see something like that, but the problem is you'd have to get people to think that snub fighters aren't garbage. Right now, snub fighters are seen as complete garbage. Can you explain the three parties real quick? So you've got the Universalists. Let's start with Transitionalists. Transitionalists were formed after the beginning of the new UEE. The Transitionalist Party effectively wants to turn the current UEE more democratic. They want to have more public free elections. They want to do away with the citizenship system, more or less. They want to incorporate more alien cultures into the UEE. They want to open trade relations with all different aliens. They also want to move the capital from Earth to Terra. And kind of want to continue the revolution that happened against the Mezzers. Then you have the Centralists, who are the complete opposite. They're more traditional. They believe that Earth is the center of the empire and should be, that humans they're not explicitly human supremacists, but they're a humanity first kind of doctrine. They also believe that the old ways are the best in the sense that you should listen to the old aristocracy. The people who have been, the Hurstons would be centralists, to give you concepts. Like people, you listen to your betters because they've been around forever. Seems to be lightly modeled off the Tories from the UK. They're kind of like a mix of more conservative parties and from various different polities on the Earth today. Their main focus is staying in power, keeping the original, keeping small groups of people in power, because those are the best people to run the empire. Reduce government oversight in things like corporations run things more frequently. They're all about lowering taxes, decreasing the government spending, though they are for increasing military spending. And also heavy doses of xenophobia. And then the Universalists, who are the kind of moderate party, they're kind of both. They believe that humanity should listen to the government should be in charge of everything, and that people should listen to the government. That the corporations have their place, but the corporation should be subservient to the government. And the government should be the kind of the father or the mother or the parents of humanity. And their job is to ensure that everyone does well. To increase trade, they want to increase trade relations with aliens, but they don't necessarily want to free trade. They want to open up a lot of trade. They want to keep things limited. They do want more representation in the UEE, but they don't want to go full democracy on that. They kind of want limited increases in the here and there. They're kind of incrementalists in those sorts of things. They tend to prefer, they don't mind military conflict, but they tend to prefer economic solutions to problems. Find ways that the market can help them, but the market under the control of the government. So they believe in regulating corporations with government oversight, but close working relationships between corporations and government. Universalists sold Stanton. To give you a concept, a Universalists have been in power forever since the fall of the Measures. They're the main party, the largest party, and they were the ones who were in charge of the selling of Stanton. That gives you kind of concept of how, I believe at least, I might be wrong. That's kind of the concept of how Universalists are. Yeah, corporations can own planets as long as they're under the UEE jurisdiction, and they can never have representation in the Senate, that kind of thing. Love to get surprised with the Vulcan for Pyro. I'd love to, but the problem is the Vulcan needs drones, and we don't have drone gameplay mentioned yet. So, Aurora and Mustang still seem pretty unnormal to me. What do you mean unnormal? Like shapes. Yeah, they're fine. You don't need to have crazy shapes in space. In fact, the most optimum shape is like a square. I'm waiting on the day, a day a whole org can reenact the 890 jump trailer. You missed it. They had multiple people have already tried that. Morphologist has a video up there of people doing of having 120 people on an 890 jump. The Avenger is probably the most normal looking starter. It looks more like a ship that we would see today. Server meshing is for increasing the play area. Yeah, basically, server meshing is not for players; it's for the play area. Abisola says that the Anvil Spartan cannot lift the Anvil Carrick. I think the PES is going to suffer though without is going to suffer that static server meshing. I think you'll reach an upper end limit point. Yes, our Star Citizen is going to make a mega project like space elevators or O'Neill cylinders. There is something. It's an artificial planet. It's not an O'Neill cylinder. That's probably one of the few things that I'm kind of upset about with CIG is that they're going full space, like full 80s aesthetic for Star Citizen, when like O'Neill cylinders could easily be built with Star Citizen's technology. They could hold more people, and they're cool. They're cool as shit. They're visually interesting. We'll see. But no, there is a project that's being worked on by the UEE called Synth World, where they're building an artificial planet from scratch. That's something that players will be helping to involve with. But no like space elevators. I don't think there is any space elevators in game. And maybe engine limitations, they may not be able to do space elevators. Pub crawl Sunday if 317.2 goes live. That's the plan, possibly. Some Kruger car would be great. Not car, but spaceship, yeah. Everyone makes fun of Star Citizen for taking so long in development, but SWTOR took 7 years and they had a massive team from the start at EA. Progress is exponential as staff increases. Yeah, but staff doesn't increase. How is it? It's Poe's Law. I can't remember the name of it. There's a rule that basically it's called the Mythical Man Month, where getting 9 women will not make a baby in 1 month. Nine women will not make a baby in 1 month, but 9 women can make a baby in 9 months. Can make 9 babies in 9 months. It's that kind of thing, where like adding people to a project that's in currently in production does not increase the speed upon which the project is done. But my addendum to that, which I've been saying for a while, is by adding more people, you will eventually increase the speed, but it still will take some time for lead up. There's only a small vocal PvP customer base compared to the big PvE quiet lurker user base. There's a lot of people who also aren't playing. The thing is that PvP gets a lot of attention. On Twitch, PvP is the draw. People want to see dynamic, interesting PvP fights. I get it. I understand it. Same with like YouTube. That's the shit. That's the real shit. But I think the average player probably isn't going to participate in PvP. It takes a certain type of person. Have you seen Warframe? The PvP aspect is dead. Good example. Smuggling. I like smuggling. PvP burns you out fast in PvE. They want to light some servers on fire for proper stress tests. Yes, they do. And they can't balance it, or it was just buggy as hell. New World was supposed to be a heavily PvP. Yeah. ESO PvP died after 2 years. Some kind of Tavaran mid-size ship would be nice. At the same time, PS2 basically failed as a game. They had to adjust its model to survive. Some people are disagreeing with Paul when it comes to PES. NPCs will need more than just PES to work better. The older a server gets, the more confused the backend gets about all the NPCs as it gets overloaded. With the data, SSM, DSM will relieve that stress. That's what I hear from others talk about. They believe PES would be more for other things. I sincerely disagree, because PES also allows for smooth shutdowns and restarts of servers, because it remembers the state of a server when it goes down. So it'll also prevent you from 30K'ing. But it allows for servers to be shut down and then booted back up pretty quickly. The problem is significantly, and this is the thing that everyone forgets, is that the difference between a meshed server and just one server in PES is just the amount of entities per that. That's it. So if you have a lot of things that the DGS has to remember, that can cause massive strain, because that DGS has to remember all of the positions in all those situations. PES removes that entirely from the equation. It just has to remember where players are. That's the key. PES removes the memory requirement for DGS for the game server, other than what players can see. So it doesn't have to save shit. So over time, remembering where NPCs are has nothing to do with the DGS. That has everything to do with PES, which is then ported back to the game server. Lots of people can disagree with me, but lots of people can be wrong too. Oh yeah, DGS won't be keeping track of NPCs though. PES transfers the data back to a separate server. Yes. What do you mean by planetary landings? Could you explain that it affected development? Okay, so originally Star Citizen was planning on having a cutscene for landing. So you would come to a planet, you would request landing, you would see a cutscene where your ship goes down to a planet and lands in a landing zone, and then you were able to get out of your ship and walk around the landing zone and take off. Star Citizen, they were actually planning on having dynamic landing, being able to land anywhere on a planet after the game launched. The plan was to release the game and then have that out. But then they developed the ability to dynamically generate planets and land on them in 2016. It's called Pupil the Planet was the one that when they announced it. And that simple addition, I mean, it's not simple, it's complex, but that addition completely changed how Star Citizen was going to work. Before that, you didn't really need vehicles. Ground vehicles didn't have to work. You didn't need any kind of working around with like NPCs wandering around stations. You didn't need anything other than what you could script for ground-based actions. So they had to effectively take all of the things they'd worked on and bin it, and then restart with that as a major feature of the design of the game. Being able to land on planets, go explore various regions. And that took time for them to restart that whole process. And of course, anytime a developer is working on something, if you take that, everything they threw it in the bin, it doesn't actually mean bad things. It means that developer learned tricks on how to build that thing again and can do it faster. Good example. I do a lot of videos. Over the last 5 years of me making lore videos, I have a template that I just slot in video stuff, and I know how to pace my audio. I know how to pace my video. I have transitions and effects that I use. I have other tools and key sets that I can use, or like little bits that I can use and reuse, which means that 5 years ago, it would take me a week to 2 weeks to make a video. I can make a video in 24 hours or less if I have the right now for lore, if I know what I'm doing. Similar things. So the problem is that all of that work that they built is now going to have to be rebuilt from scratch with more stuff added. That's kind of the problem. Is there any artwork for other races? Yeah. Let me pull up the... I'll just pull this up for y'all. Banu, Tavarin, of course, the Tavarin in armor. Vandul in armor. And the Xian. These are all the main species of the Star Citizen other than humanity. An alien industrial ship would be cool, yeah. For all entities, though, it's also dropped items, aka infamous coffee cups around that's correct. Server still gets old, which confuses the server at the moment, hence the glitched NPCs. The more things get loaded in. So I see where those people are coming from, too. I get where those people are coming from. The problem is that the server meshing is not going to solve that problem. Server meshing is not going to solve the problem of servers getting old. The only thing that's going to solve the problem of servers getting old is shutting them down. Smells like communism to a degree. Yeah, what are they called? The transitionalists are very communist. They're much more on the left spectrum. Socialism, probably wouldn't say communism. I'd say much more like democratic socialism is more closely to what they are. You would have the centralists are much more of a how to put that aristocratic conservatism. It's less about necessarily like your typical conservative values and more of like, we are in charge, listen to us because we are your betters. Which is, not surprising why the centralists are not very popular in government. And the universalists are kind of in between, which is why they're the more popular. PES will be linked to Quantum, right? Eventually PES will be linked to Quantum, yes. Question, do you think they'll ever give us the ability to create alien race character? I think so, but probably not until after the game is more released. That makes sense. Thanks for the explanation. Okay. Won't be the same until we can spend an IR week on a tour in another system. 417.2 is not ready at all for development. No, 417.2 is not even close. Have you come back from the year 2050 to tell us about this, Death Trooper? That's some odd math. What do you mean there, Mitch? Why have those cylinders, though, when artificial gravity is a thing, just to make a giant square something? Yeah, but you'd also have to have power to run the artificial gravity. You don't need nearly as much power to spin the drum. Because once you get something spinning at a certain rate, it's pretty easy in space. You can get it easily to stay at that rate. There's no need to have artificial gravity when you can build a giant cylinder. The problem I see with all the cylinders is the absolute insane amount of materials, especially metals, needed to build them. Technologically wise, they could easily do it, though, yes. Yeah, but the issue with Star Citizen lore is overpopulation. Like, overpopulation is a major factor in Star Citizen lore right now. And if that was the case, you'd build fucking O'Neill cylinders, because they can hold millions of people, if not billions of people, with the right O'Neill cylinders. So, yeah, Shipyard Museum would be in manufacturing, would have manufactured ships. Yeah, I'd love to see stuff like that. Yeah, sure. There's waiting to have capital PvP combat. That'll be an awesome site. It'll be nuts. I'm honestly surprised we don't have regular server maintenance already, but I suppose PES should bring that. The reason why we don't have regular server maintenance has more to do with the fact that CIG is testing how much abuse can the servers take. All right, gotta go bed later. Unknown Guardian, thanks for hanging out. So far behind, chat. Can a keyboard and mouse player be truly competitive in PvP dogfighting? Yes! Let me tell you the legend of Malagos. Mouse Jesus. There have been competitive Star Citizen combat players with mouse and keyboard forever. Yes, you can be. It just requires work. What do you think about a long-range medium to large stealth ship with hangar for small stealth ship and cargo that will hold a stealth rover for special operations and sabotage? I can see something like that happening. There definitely needs to be a longer range reconnaissance ship, which we don't have yet. You know, something like a Blackbird, but I don't know if it's stealth. How do you feel about all of the lasers in game now? Technically, they're not lasers; they're energy weapons. But they're cool, I guess. Larger ships isn't nearly as stealthy as small ships. That's true. It makes more sense for like a reconnaissance ship to be one that is long ranged and fast and maneuverable, that maybe can hold a stealth fighter, a stealthy reconnaissance ship. Something that can get that ship that is not so efficient on the fuel to a place where it can do its reconnaissance, but also get the fuck out fast. Devarin ship that can use a Talon as a snub. That'd be interesting. I'd love to see that as, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's kind of what the Prowler is as a stealth dropship. That's what the Prowler is designed to be. Centralists are like paternalist authoritarians, yeah. But, I mean, they still believe in democracy, sort of. The best way of thinking, historically speaking, what it is the transitionalists were the rebels who wanted to overthrow the government of the Mezzers, and the centralists are the Mezzer loyalists who just didn't like Mezzer, didn't like the Mezzers. Like, they thought that the Mezzers had grown too corrupt, but they still liked all the ideas that the Mezzers had and the power the Mezzers had. They just didn't like the Mezzers. They're Nazis that didn't like Hitler, kind of thing. So they threw in with the rebels when shit got south, and so they're still in power technically because they helped overthrow the Mezzers. But you know, that kind of thing. And the Universalists are the people who tried to form a path between both, and knew that the Mezzers were shit, but didn't want to like openly try to fight them because they knew they'd just get black-bagged and thrown in jail. People like the founder of Crusader would be a Universalist. Dunlow, Auguste Dunlow. I'm fairly sure Chris had said that he doesn't want players to play aliens. There was an earlier comment, way back, where they said that they wouldn't mind players playing aliens, but it would have to be an expansion. And it would have to be, they'd have to completely redo like the new player experience for it. Everything will be linked to Quantum at some point. It all feeds back, yeah. Hey, I took my DeLorean with the DR and see what's up there. See. Here, I'm gonna skip through a lot of this. You may have to go ask stuff again. You never went into graviton and a merry-go-round before? Spinning always creates gravity. Yeah, but it doesn't take as much in Earth. You spin at a gravitron. Eventually, the spin will slow down and you'll no longer spin. But in space, you start spinning. There's nothing to stop you. Well, there is, but it's so minute. The force is so minute on you that you're spinning that it would take forever for you to slow down. You guys are still on the stealth ship stuff. All right, I'm finally back. I'm finally up to the top. Lasers are fun. If you don't like lasers, you don't like fun. Augustin, my beloved. There we go. So a recon version of the Polaris. Yeah, I could see like a recon Corvette. Yeah, like a recon Corvette would be nice. I was gonna say recon frigate, but no, you don't need a fucking a recon Idris. Question, do you think the rope physics they're working on will be repelling from ships become a thing? I think it adds some great immersion. I'd love to see that. I don't think that's the case. I think it's for rope puzzles for Squadron. Though I'd love for them to confirm about that, because I also have a sneaking suspicion that rope doesn't mean rope as in tying things up and that kind of thing, and more means some sort of slang for how they tie modes together. Like you've seen them draw lines from like little boxes as part of their this is their like a NPC's personality links to their profession, all that kind of stuff. You've seen that sort of thing, and I'm afraid that might be because a lot of that stuff is specifically in engine discussions when they talk about rope. Is there known science that to what determines if you'll be able to see other ships when in a group quantum jump? Even using the same QT drive side by side, we never see each other. It does happen. I don't know if it's just a desync error, I think, because there are videos out there of people demonstrating that you can quantum jump together. There are some specific things you have to do to make it work, but I think that's going the way of the dodo. The current Star Citizen new player experience is amazing if you ignore the game ship-breaking bugs, setting you back hours if you go without any friends. Nah, the current Star Citizen new player experience is garbage. They don't really teach you how to play the game in any meaningful way. They need to have some sort of way that can lead you into the game, but doesn't like force you down a path. You know, Star Citizen is a sandbox, and you never in any sandbox do you want to force players into a small limited area. That's a shitty idea. A new player experience for a sandbox needs to be as open as a sandbox and allow players to just completely ignore it if they don't want to. When can we expect to see Visit Alien Worlds? You already are. Stanton is an alien world. All the worlds in Stanton are aliens. They're not from Earth. I'm sorry, Anakeko. I said Wednesday for my EU stream. I work all day than I do on Friday. Okay. Imagine using rope to defend down caves for bounty missions. That would be sick. No rope, you can't make it down deep. You already kind of have those openings for ships where you have to like fly a ship in to be the only way you can get in. Descent. To descent. Okay. Planets inhabited by aliens are just other planet other than Earth. I mean, it's all of the planets of the Stanton system. If you're talking about non-human based planets, we'll see it with probably after beta, be my guess. All you need to know is how to eject Paul out of an airlock at any given point in game. You have to be wary. I may steal your stuff. Hey, Morgoth, how you doing? If you ask the Hurstons, the planet they own is full of non-humans. Just employees. Oof. Oof. Big oof. I'd love to see rope and caves, yeah. Any idea when the Foundation distribution is occurring? Not a clue. Not a clue. My guess is 317.2. My biggest gripe with the new player was sometimes guns not appearing on your ship when having to figure out how to replace them. Yeah, that's more of a. It's partially a bug, but like effectively, what we need, and I've said this before, is a mission that pops up that you get when you first log into the game that tells you to go to this location and to pick up your keys for your ship. You go there, you pick up your keys for your ship, and then you get a prompt from the NPC behind the desk if you want some training on your ship or something to that effect. And if you say yes, it'll take you behind the desk into a sim pod, and then they'll run you a simulation, basically like a driver's ed test sort of thing, where you can be as artificial as you want because it's a fucking artificial simulation that will teach you how to use your ships, how to maneuver, how to manage your ship's systems, all those sorts of things. And then when you're getting finished with that, you can play around with it as much as you want. You can get out and you're done. That's effectively what I would suggest for that sort of thing. You better not tell Paul you found an artifact. He might come to your ship and borrow. I'm not going to borrow your ship. I'll buy the artifact off of you for more than the game's going to give you. Question is one thing. What's one thing you're most looking forward to being added at some point? I mean, most. Smuggling better, like smuggling boxes, improving the smuggling experience. What's your current estimate for beta release, and what would Star Citizen require to make it to the transition to beta? My guess is around 2025, and the things it needs is the main pillars to be in place. The professions, some of the early professions to be fleshed out, but the main pillars to be in place. Quantum, server meshing, static server meshing, persistence, all those things. You can eject Paul out of your ship, but as soon as he's out there, he realized he stole one of the spacesuits and a distress beacon. Also, your distress beacon too, so his pirate friends will. That would be great. Give an option if you wanted to. Maybe on your way to getting your keys, you just walk past food and drink store in the hospital. I mean, basically, tell players you cannot get your ship until you get your keys. And you get your keys by going to a specific location and picking up those keys. And while you're talking to the person behind the desk, have that person say, there's a hospital down this direction. There's some food over there if you need anything. And then do you need to know any more? And then, during your simulation, you might have some pepper chippy, like a sprite that's telling you, Clippy, but in the 30th century. It looks like you're trying to fly your ship. Would you like some help? Tell you about like food vendors and stalls. You can even make it a joke, like sponsored by Terra Foods. I love me some of this Big Benny's noodles. Available wherever, that kind of shit. Like, cause you see that shit all the time in like driver's ed classes that are like the videos like sponsored by AAA or like Toyota or Ford, that kind of thing. You can go crazy with that. And at the same time, it still works as it's a simulation. So people won't be like, oh, this feels so forced. It's like, it's a simulation. It's supposed to be over the top. Just for historical state, the sprite should be called Clippy, but no one remembers why. To be feature complete, that is the tech definition of beta. Feature complete, but not content complete. Yes. That's effectively what I'm saying. Feature complete, meaning everything that is in the back end is done, but for instance, professions are not features, they're content. Having like the dynamic mission system is a feature, but The missions themselves are content. Yeah, Terra Mills. I think rather than keys, it should be Mobiglass. It could also include a Mobiglass tutorial. Yeah, you can see that. But I mean, how do you get them? The key at that point then is how do you get to that point? I got you, Paul. It's clearly pooping animation. Question, do you think the recent return of turtles around the rivers with the rollout of AI nav mesh is indication that we may see boreal stalkers, space whales before Pyro comes out? Possibly. They've already started to work on AI fauna in Squadron 42. Last monthly report, they said they're beginning the preliminary work of making fauna, having fauna roam around in levels for Squadron 42. They're using the AI behavior of the Vanduul as an adaptation for their kind of more aggressive behavior. So, possibly. I think it wouldn't be surprised if we got fauna in the game in 4.0. I hope you do not, for all of concierge members, where we walk out with a wheelbarrow full of ship keys. I mean, in the distant future, you wouldn't have keys, but you'd have some sort of authorization, right? You know, hey, we're authorizing, you know, like a title signing. You know, go pick up the title for your ships. Question: what, in your opinion, giving some sort of indication on what missions are NPC focused or PvP focused? 0. Fuck it. No one should know if it's a PvP or PvE focused mission. You should just do the mission. If other players are involved, the players are involved. I'm not a fan of railroading those things. And I also think that any mission that has a counter mission approach to it should also have the ability for NPCs to take that counter mission. Gotta have the girl in the med clinics that do the commercials. It's all about feeling your best. Yeah. The ones that are usually in the personal tab are usually illegal. Yeah, that's going to change hopefully in the future when they move to more of a reputation-based system. Title to the whole ID. Yeah, biometric or DNA sequencer. Yeah, you have to go in and get physically scan yourself in. Maybe you do have to go pick up your Moby instead of the keys. Yeah, the problem again is the Moby glass is, how would you get the mission to the first place to go pick up the Moby glass? That's the question for that. Making up some sort of title transfer would make sense because A, that's what's eventually going to have to happen when your player ultimately does the big death, the big sleep. After regeneration, you can no longer regenerate and you have to create a new character. They're going to have some sort of system in place for transitioning. So if you just have the transition be, here's your, we need to get your stuff. Here's your title. We're going to transfer it all over to your person, and you're done. Paul, as far as space pirate friends having your back, I speak from experience. Once you had a bounty on you, once you had a bounty on you, and I came for you, and I forgot his name, but he killed me as soon as he came to get you. I do have lots of nefarious friends. I do. So if they add rodents, you might find one chewing on your wires in your ship. If they can figure out how to do that, I wouldn't be surprised. Lovis gives out 2 missions, one with PvP counter and one without. Sorry if this is asked already, but is Siege of Orison going to be part of the mission system, or is it a one-time event? It's going to be a one-time event. Eventually, it will be linked to the mission system. All of the events will eventually be spawnable by players, but they have to be linked to the Quanta system, and the Quanta system has to be more fleshed out. So there'll be certain actions which you can think of it as like a meter, and certain actions and certain missions will fill up that meter. And eventually when that meter hits full, it will spawn a mission, and spawn an event. And each event is linked to very specific missions that take place, or types of missions that are going to take place all over Stanton. Personal tab should only show missions that have factions. Oh no, the fucking Moby Glass is garbage. The Noble Glass design currently is garbage. It was, and I say that not to insult the people who do the UI, because I understand what it was there for. It was there as a way of a temporary, let's slap this in there to get it working. But they definitely need to rework that system when it comes to the new stuff. It's just not a very well thought out system. Do you think once player housing is in, we will get furniture manufacturers? Yeah, we do. We already have them. Origin doesn't make sofas. It's Sakura Sun most of them. Bearing and Sakura Sun make a lot of shit for like furniture and appliances and such. Bearing is actually more well known for making like beds. Yes, they make railguns, but they also make they're like Saab. Question. Do you mean you can only die twice and you can make a new character? Can you explain? So, the Star Citizen game mechanics and lore are combined on this. Players will have a limit to the amount of times they can respawn. In lore, this is called your imprint viability score. You have, in lore, humanity discovered this very recently. Discovered a device that allows for us to completely copy the consciousness of an individual onto a separate storage device. And this consciousness is a live update. It actually is connected to a player's brain through interspace. So no matter where a player is, or a person is, I should say, or no matter where a person is, they will always send updates back to this scanning device. It's called an Ibrahim sphere, which was stolen. It's based off technology stolen from the Van Duel. And when you combine an Ibrahim sphere with a new technology called regen, or called, it's called regen gel, but it's effectively a medical gel, which can flash clone anything it touches or anything it has. You can basically transfer consciousness at the point of death to a new body. But the process doesn't work as long as there is an active connection between an Ibrahim sphere and a person. So the person has to die in order for the Ibrahim sphere to be able to copy its consciousness onto another person. You can't clone people like that. So it's hand-wavium, good story element stuff, full creates a lot of interesting plot developments in the lore too. Because it's a fairly new technology which has widely been embraced by humanity. But it's not an infinite respawn machine. As you get older, your imprint will also get older. So your brain imprint ages with you. So you're never able to like respawn back into a younger body. And the more you respawn, the more the trauma of your death builds up in your brain. And can cause weird things to happen where your print is not fully right. So like say your arm gets cut off before you died. Well, when you get respawned, that arm may not function properly. The nerve endings may no longer function on that arm. So you have to have that arm amputated and replace it with a synthetic arm because of the trauma that your brain had for losing it. So over time, you become less and less viable. Your score, your ability to get reprinted becomes hard because of these buildup of what are called trauma echoes. These trauma echoes build up in your brain until eventually you can no longer respawn. And at that point, in game, you will have to create a brand new player. That brand new character will then get all of the stuff your old character had with some inheritance fees. Like, so you'll have to pay a little bit of taxes for it. So like if you have 1 million UEC in all these ships, well, the value of those ships are going to be added to your taxes. So you're going to have to you won't get 1 million UEC. You'll get, 800,000 UEC plus your ships back. So you have to pay a little bit of a respawn fee, but that will take place over a long period of time. So you can think of it mechanically as you have two bars. You have a soft health bar and a hard health bar. Your soft health bar is your day-to-day health stuff. When you die, your hard health bar will then take a little bit of a hit. You respawn, but eventually that health bar will drain down until there's nothing. And then that nothing will then really mean that you have to come back as a brand new character. So. We don't know the exact amount of time, and I think the way that CIG wants to get it done is They want to make it variable depending on how you died. You know, dying because you fell off a cliff is different from dying because you got a freaking railgun to your body into existence. Space IKEA. Yeah, pretty much. Can we read this lore in game? No, it's not in game yet. Sadly, it's only on the website. Eventually it'll be put into the game, but it's on the website. You can also look at the Galactopedia. If you go to, let me show you. So if you go to the website here, or robertspaceindustries.com, you go up to apps, you can go to Galactopedia. And this has all of the lore for all these different things. Like, for instance, let's look at a big one. Commerce. Let's look up Crusaders. Go to C. Cry Astro, Center Mass, Crusader Industries. Boom. So now we see all this information about when it was founded. It's part of the UEE. It's a human company. They make the Genesis Starliner. They also make the M2 Hercules and the Mercury Blockade Runner. It's a privately owned world. Okay, we go to privately owned world. Then we can see all these privately owned worlds. You see Microtech, Art Corp, Person Dynamic, and Crusader Industries. Go back to Crusader Industries. There you go. You can also look at the LH-307 Genesis, the Starliner. You bought back. You can go to different categories and tags, all sorts of things. Eventually, this will be in game. They want to take this and put it into game, into your Moby Glass, but it's not there yet. So we found an alien artifact and wired it to our brains. Oh yeah, absolutely nothing's going to go wrong, right? We're basically space liches with a sci-fi phylactery. Yep. So you think the Vanduul have been using regen tech this whole time? Would explain why they keep coming. Well, the problem is that regen is two stages. It's the Ibrahim sphere and the regen serum that we use. All we found from the Vanduul was the Ibrahim sphere, and we don't know why that's the case. Assassination player target by Ninetales. What? Jack? I don't know what you're asking. The bed you go to sleep in and the railgun puts you to sleep. Brought you by Bering. There's no set number of times. Yeah, there's no hard set number of times yet. I'm sure this is unexplained, but what happens when there is a comms disruption between the person's regen area? How is the clone not created? Because it's used. It's not a comms issue. It's it goes to interspace, which is like a different dimension. It might be different numbers too, so a heart attack is less severe than crushed to death or whatever. Yeah, effectively. Bering, we put you to sleep one way or the other. Being a warrior race, dying is honor. Yeah. It's like magic. Well, I mean, what's the old... it's not Asimov. It's Arthur C. Clarke. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. If I die in Tarkov, then I will perma-death in 2 hours. It's more like using quantum entanglement. Yeah, it's similar to quantum entanglement. So give someone your money before you die, if you can remember that. So like our altered carbon without the stacks, because in altered carbon you're effectively immortal. As long as your stack is pulled, you can be downloaded into a new body no matter what. You can live hundreds of thousands of years as long as you have a new sleeve. With Star Citizen, there is no sleeves. You regen, but there's a set amount of time that you can do it. And there are ways you can improve the experience, where the closer, the more frequently you imprint, the healthier you live, the closer you are, and the better the Ibrahim sphere is. So if you go to a very top tier hospital, your regen is going to be a lot better, and you will have less echoes. That's what CIG wants to do. Is they want to have a bunch of factors to be in place for, like, depending on how you die, how far away are you from your regen spot, what's the quality of the regen bed you're at, which is why for things like a tier 2 bed on like a Carrack and an 890 jump, those are tier 2 beds. And you may be able to regen from them, but you may not have good quality. You may take a huge fucking hit in your viability score by regenning on them. So. Just don't die. That's exactly the answer. Just get good, Serge. But I have to backspace every 10 minutes. See, that's one of the reasons why they haven't fully implemented the regen system, is because there are a lot of bugs. And they don't want people to have to completely restart the game because of bugs. That's the eventual goal. Will players be able to own a world? Possibly, if you can control it. If you got the biggest stick. Yes, let's not stress about Mobiglass even until they update it. Question, will you lose your in-game name? I don't want to lose my handle if I die. I really like it. No, your handle is linked to your account. No one tell Freeman. You will have to name your characters. I believe you'll have to name your characters, yes. Handle is just a placeholder. God, data running could literally be intercepting Ibrahim sphere transmissions or transporting the latest transmissions from another system to another. Yeah, like a transporting Ibrahim spheres. You could. So like first name and last name, and then when your character dies, you can give your second character the same last name. Probably. I don't think there's going to be unique names. So if you want to have 1,000 John Smiths, you can have 1,000 John Smiths, but they haven't even gotten to that point yet. I'd really like for us to be able to have different character accounts, but it's not a signal traveling through space, yeah. Why are tier 1, they are tier 1, right? There's 2 tiers for regens. Tier 2 can regen and tier 1 can regen. Tier 2 regens may have some limitations, and we know as of the Banu Merchantman update that they plan on having all medical beds have resources. So you're going to have to keep your medical beds stocked with things like medical, like a med gel, various drugs, and other aspects, other resources, which will be drained if you have to print a fucking person. But a tier 1 bed is probably better maintained, better built, probably a little bit larger, so it's more cumbersome, but doesn't use as much resources. Be so cool to test it now, yeah. I bet they'll do a similar to STO where you have a unique handle and a character name. Hopefully. I'll just pay people to die for me. Chortles mightily and sip snifter of Grey Poupon. Wait, so where do the new bodies your consciousness is transferred come from? Is this Westworld? They're printed. They're grown with a special gel, which was developed originally designed to help rebuild arms, like limbs, but it can rebuild anything. It's part of a process. It's the same reason why people can actually get complete facial and body surgery from outpatient care. You can completely change your vision, your appearance, with just outpatient care. Same company was involved with it. So. Astro, keep it excellent work. Thank you, Mactius. To be honest, I hope better beds actually need more expensive ingredients. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'd also be surprised. Would be surprised. I'd be more surprised. Or I more suggest that you could get better ingredients for all beds, but they're going to cost more money and they'll take up slots. So the way that CG likes to balance, I could easily see tier 3 beds. You don't have respawn gel, so you can put as many fucking drugs as you want in there, but it only deals with tier 3 injuries. So it can go much longer, but it can only deal with certain stuff. Tier 2 beds can deal with everything a tier 1 bed can do, but they're more mobile. It's kind of like you can have the stuff you can see in like an ambulance. Yeah, they have stuff in ambulances to treat people, to keep them alive, but generally speaking, ambulances aren't meant to keep people like kicking forever, or like a clinic. You know, you might have an X-ray machine in the clinic, but they're not equipped for extensive surgery. Whereas tier 1 is designed for most extreme injuries, but also for things like traumatic, like really super traumatic stuff. So tier 2, you could respawn in a tier 2 bed, but it does not have as much equipment as a tier 1 bed, and it lacks, you could probably buy the expensive materials that you'd have in a tier 1 bed, but it wouldn't last as long. The top tier med beds are also human 3D printers. Yep. But just the body, yeah. The consciousness has to be stored on an Ibrahim sphere. And they transfer your mind back to the new body, yeah. And it can take, we don't know how long it could take. In theory, it might take, it may take days for that to happen. Questions, if we're able to avoid cybernetics if we pay more money for actual medical treatment? Yes. That's their goal is that you can completely avoid medical cybernetics, but you're going to cost you more money to get an arm. And they've even said things like they want to be able to have players do things that will actually increase their viability score. So be able to pay for expensive treatments to make so that they don't die as much, to repair their arms so they can regrow their arms entirely, to be natural. They also want players to be able to be full fucking cyborg, where you just replaced your whole body with parts. The question is, do they want players to willingly be able to do that as well? Because if they don't, players are just going to kill themselves until they can get a full cyborg body. They record brainwaves, neurons, patterns from each player. Yeah, effectively. We do have medical gameplay now. We're just not fully implemented. So a rich person could extend your life, like their usual life expectancy? Yes. But this technology has been available for the public for a while, for a couple of years now. So like lots of people have access to it. It's increased the lifespan of the average person dramatically, because dying from a industrial accident no longer means you're dead. It means you can come back and live until another industrial accident. And basically, fatal mistakes are no longer fatal. They're only fatal as long as you keep making them. We already have some of those consumables. Yeah, exactly. But but the beds don't use consumables. The beds have infinite healing machines. Eventually, those beds will also have to have hemazole, dihydroxyurea, all those sorts of things to be able to even function. Meaning the person's going to be using more. You can actually hear it. If you go to the Maria Pure of Heart Hospital, they actually have a full fucking like speech on like, just because you are, oh no, it's written on the wall. Just because you die doesn't mean you're out of your contract. That's not how this works. Because you sign lifetime contracts with Hurston. So obviously people said, hey, regen works. Regen's a thing now. I'm just going to unlife myself. And then I'll be out of the contract when I regen, because it was only for a lifetime, right? They have a legal disclaimer in Maria Pure of Heart that says no, that you're still linked to this. Oh yeah, there's plenty of religious groups who are fully against this. They actually mention it in the regen lore that there are religious groups and economists who are business folks, I should say, not economists, who are completely against this, because business folks are worried that this will increase resource usage because people will be living longer, which means more people need more healthcare. They need more jobs. So you're going to have increase of life means you're going to have more stress on the resources that are available in the verse. And religious groups also see it as a fucking soul capture machine. So they're like, no. Even in death, you still serve. Oh yeah. Crusader is a Christian company. I don't think it's necessarily a Christian company anymore, but it was founded as a explicitly Christian company. Yeah, religion, all of the religions that exist today in modern world still exist in some way, shape, or form in the 30th century. Can you technically not age then due to the way the respawn regrowth works? Like you can regrow as a totally different person in a shady hospital? You can technically no longer look like you age, but you still age. They have full reconstructive surgery that can make you look as young as or whoever you want to. But that won't stop the aging process. Because the way that the Ibrahim sphere works is that it's constantly updating. Your mind is constantly updating the Ibrahim sphere, so all of your memories are preserved. But it also preserves your current age. All of your current statuses. So when you regen, you still are the same age and you still have the same problems that you did when you died. So you can always look younger, but you won't physically be younger. So all of the same problems that would affect like a 50-year-old or a 70-year-old or a 120-year-old will affect you. By the way, life expectancy in the Star Citizen universe is 200. The average lifespan of a human in the Star Citizen universe is 150. Admiral Bishop is 175. No, the spheres are also updating. And the best way of describing Ibrahim spheres is we took technology we had no fucking idea what it was doing, figured out how to exploit it just enough so that we can get it to work the way we wanted to, and then exploited it. The first successful reprint of a human being took place 3 years ago in lore. No, 4 years ago in lore. We have no fucking idea what we're doing with this stuff. But that hasn't stopped us before. My lifespan starts is about 30 minutes before NPC pushes me into the stairs. So eventually everyone will get space dementia. Yeah, you just look really fabulous when you're space dementia. I want everything. I want a Crusader Herc with Drake engines. Yeah. Interesting. So potentially immortality device, but need to progress tech more, i.e. prevent from updating intentionally, but keeping your consciousness updating. Yeah, the problem is that just by living your life, you have what are called trauma echoes that will feed back into your brain. Hey, Talia. So by living, you are building error codes. The device is building up error codes inside of it. And eventually you'll be more error than human, which is why you will no longer be able to reprint. There's some, no joke, very exciting advancements in the field of dementia research for the past few years. Yeah. We've learned a lot about stuff because of things like unlocking the human genome, but also, if I remember correctly, there's been a lot of research into video games and their effect on dementia. Like gaming itself can help stave off the effects of dementia. And we're getting close to understanding how dementia happens, what is the origin of dementia, and how to correct dementia. I mean, if you can think about it, if the average number of lives you can get from an Ibrahim sphere is 10, you died 9 fucking times. How traumatic is dying? Imagine like you got your head chopped off and your head's rolling around and you're seeing your body as you're dying because your head still stays alive for a couple of seconds after death. And you just see the realization that your body is dead. And you die, everything goes black, and then suddenly you wake up and everything is different. That's a traumatic fucking experience. Then you have to go through it another 9 damn times. Question, I haven't been searching for your videos, how they have metrics looked at in the past few days. Okay. My current video stuff is not doing great, but that's just more to do with the topic. Yeah, it's my worst performing video. But it'll be fine. So 9 deaths from elevators. Yeah. I imagine it's like a walk in the park. Jurassic Park. I've lived 8 lives. Let's face it, I've just grown bitter and crazy over the years. Yeah. Exactly. So humanity has discovered the warp in Star Citizen, to a degree. I mean, Star Citizen as a universe is very, very much like the very similar to the pre-Imperium, Dark Age of or like early Dark Age of technology in the 440k universe. They don't like AI. AI constantly fucks up and tries to kill them. They have a very tenuous relationship with Xeno races. There's a lot of parallels between those two in terms of the storytelling. It's one of the reasons why I call the Star Citizen universe as a genre. I call it a grim punk genre, where it has elements of grimdark in terms of its overarching. Everything is fucked. Like the universe is absolutely hyper fucked, and everyone is going to end up dying in a horrible way, likely. And you just like people, so many people are in poverty. It's just shit is fucked, yo. But it's not like the average person is hyper fucked. The average person still has a chance to improve themselves or to get out of being hyper fucked. It's just the odds are stacked against them. And then you also have corporations which run rampant and control everything in the Star Citizen universe, very similar to cyberpunk narratives. So you have a lot of cyberpunk. You've got cyberpunk chocolate with the grimdark peanut butter, and they're all getting mixed up together. It's pretty fucking bad. It's not the Imperium, you get turned or like you get turned into a fucking living couch bad, but living 150, living on Hurston, where you have to wear a bag over your face, and even death doesn't separate you from your lifetime contract. So you're going to live to 200 years old doing backbreaking labor with your lungs dying, only to knowing that eventually you're just going to get a new body. So you just have to live in constant pain and suffering for 200 years. Kind of fucked. And Hurston is an extreme example, but there are more places in the Star Citizen universe that are like Hurston than there are like Microtech or Crusader. Hey, you got your cyberpunk in my grimdark. Yeah. I may have some, but no one knows how to make it. I think the retcon with the Primaris Marines, but Terminator armor was originally like that. Yeah. Shouldn't have moved to Hurston. Well, Hurston attracts a lot of people who are ex-cons or people who are literally desperate. Like they have nowhere else to turn because they can at least get some stability there. But it's a lifetime contract. They can't get out of it. How long is the stream going to be? I'm probably going to end it here shortly. I got to make food for the wife. There is a ring of to smuggle people off of Hurston. It's run by Shaw. Is Daniel Shaw? We have his audio files, but we haven't actually seen him yet. Shaw is the guy who gets you what you want in Hurston and gets people out if he needs them, if he wants them to. He works with Eddie Parr and Wallace Klim. Shaw may have gone the way of the dodo, though, so we don't know. When we buy the workers or either liberate them or bring them under better working conditions, I'm guessing Hurston won't easily let out go of its workers. They're not technically slaves. They just have lifetime contracts for employment. they willingly chose to sign those contracts. That's their workaround for that. Where's Hobbs? I don't know. Hobbs and Shaw. Hey, Paul. School starts for us on August 1st. Kids show up on the 8th. Hope you had a great rest of your summer break. Thanks. Yeah, no, school starts for us on the 15th. And, but our school starts for us on the, on the 8th is the first day we've got a report. And then the actual classes start on the 15th. Feels better than temp contracts. That's the concept. That's what Hurston likes to say. They're like, we are not a we're helping people who are desperate. We give them what they need. Oh, someone gave me $10 and it didn't tell me that they gave me $10. I don't know why that was happening. Thank you, whoever gave me $10. I have to set that up a little bit better. I'm still getting everything set up properly, so. Not excited to go back to school. I'm excited to go back to school, but I'm not excited to lose the time I had. You think they're ever going to address the space versus on-planet temperature bias for gear? Space is like negative 270 C. You can survive infinitely in just a flight suit. But at 70 C on the planet, you die in minutes. I think the way that they say is right now space is 0 degrees C. Everywhere in space is 0 C. So that's just them having to change things. Eventually, I'm sure they'll change to the actual scientifically proper proper temperature, but they also need to change how suits work, because eventually they're going to have full-on EVA suits that you're going to have to buy for working in space. They don't have those yet because they want to add power, fuel, and other aspects to the system. And they're also going to allow for the push-pull system, where you can dynamically grab or touch parts of the ship and then use those as to like pull yourself up, so you don't have to use EVA fuel. The concept right now of you having infinite EVA fuel walking around, that's not going to happen in the future. Eventually, you'll have those things, and your flight suits might have EVA fuel, but they'll have a very limited amount. Hey, Depose, how you doing? We die of lack of oxygen before freezing in space. Atmosphere makes a huge difference in temperature transfer rates. Yeah. School vacations only started last week, but we only have 6 weeks. Yeah, we have like 10 weeks school vacation. But in theory, the way it should go is that in the dark, it's negative 270 degrees or negative 300 Celsius. And in the heat, it should be insanely hot, like 300 degrees Celsius or whatever it is. Because I know when you're no longer facing like the star, it's going to be fucking cold. But when the star, like in space right now, like in orbit, when the sun comes out, it gets incredibly hot, which is why you need heating and cooling systems for astronauts. Space stations have more issues with trying to get rid of heat. Yeah, that's because they build up a lot of heat because of the natural living space and or using computers and such. But in Star Citizen, they have solved that problem partially because they have these things called coolers, which work to transfer natural heat into more cooler temperatures. Whatever. You know what I mean? It's super fucking cold. As cold as it can physically be. Temps on Microtech still make no sense, though. What do you mean, Marcus Haven? It's fucking cold on Microtech. It's like physically... It's the highest limit you can get while still being habitable. You can still breathe atmosphere, but it's super fucking cold. Oh yeah, it's absolutely fucked. In Microtech. I'm with you that I don't want them to make PvP specific missions. I want missions to be able to be PvP, but I don't want them to necessarily be only PvP. Yeah, that's a matter of just tuning the actual numbers, Marcus. Like I said, in space right now, it's just 0C. Your character just experiences 0C. That's just a detail that they'll change eventually. Should contact Microtech should contact Solar System and buy global heating tech. I wouldn't get super wrapped up in the numbers because numbers will change. Effectively what they're trying to say is that Microtech is so fucking cold that it's actually impossible to live on the planet without protection. It's not habitable, but there's still oxygen nitrogen mix in the atmosphere, so you can still breathe the atmosphere. Question, will we organize a takeover of Hearst and Lorville? Yes, we will. It just depends on when we can actually take weapons into green zones. That's still a plan. On some services, still snows inside of it, yeah. With river ticket improvements coming, do you think they'll give us the current river a name finally? What would you like to see it be? Named after the developer who created it. That'd be fine. I wonder if some parts of Microtech are habitable in the summer without protection. Yeah, the equator. The equator is okay. And in fact, right now, if you go to areas of the equator, it's, I think it's like -3C. The temperatures are pretty balmy in the equator. We're talking like at worst, or like at best, like -3C to like 0C. It's just barely freezing. I know why they're not doing the 1.5G on Super Earths, though, Del. And that has a lot to do with gameplay, because they actually can. We have seen them be able to change the gravity willy-nilly in certain locations. The problem is that when they did that, people's bones broke instantly. Yeah, that's its warmest it can get. It can the coldness factor is so cold that it's literally impossible to live. What's my daily in Star Citizen? Right now, the Cutlass Red. But it's a toss-up between the Cutlass Red and the Misc Freelancer. The Freelancer Misc, I should say. Can't remember his name, but one of the YouTuber who does astrology and stuff did analysis of Microtech from a scientific point of view. I believe it was outside the Goldilocks zone, i.e. get as warm as they can do already is a miracle. It's just on the edge of the Goldilocks zone. Yeah. It's on the very edge of the Goldilocks zone. And they fucked up the terraforming process. So it doesn't really annoy me that there's no aliens NPCs walk around just for a change up. They have to fully like rig those characters and build them out and build their AIs and such. It'll happen. It'll take a couple of years. Likely not until 2 years from now. We'll see. Maybe a Xi'an. There is a Xi'an embassy on Art Corp, so, or consulate on Art Corp. Oh yeah, that's the reason why I like the red over the Freelancer Misc, is because the Freelancer Misc is much harder to control. When's the planet with yellow foliage coming out? Do we know yet? That's going to be, you're talking about Pyro? The Pyro stuff? That's going to come out with 4.0, which is at the earliest next year. At the earliest the end of this year, but likely not for people to see until spring of next year. Question, was it Pyro 4? Take a look real quick. Pyro system, Pyro 4. Probably Pyro 5 as a gas giant. Pyro 4 is probably it. These are Pyro 4's screenshots. This is Pyro 4. So, that doesn't look like it. Maybe Pyro 6? Pyro 2, maybe? Here we go. This is Pyro 2. It's 3. Oh yeah, I see it now. This one? Yeah, Pyro 3, I think, and Pyro 4 are the one. No, Pyro 3 is the one that has the most terraformation on it. It's obvious that they used some early seeding. There's like a lot of the yellow stuff looks like lichen or fungus. Like they use very early seeding, like this, yeah, like the moss and lichen, and some small grasses. Looks much more early stage of terraforming. Oh, this one, yeah. This is the concept for Pyro 3 right here. Yeah, moss, yeah. So the process of terraforming in Star Citizen is not too different from what process of terraforming is in reality. However, each planet is different. So the process involves 3 steps. One is to check to see if the planet is hot enough, has a molten core hot enough to be able to spin. And to create more magnetic fields. If it doesn't, they use these giant fucking platforms with just huge fucking lasers to burrow down into the core and try to reignite the core. and then to get it spinning fast enough. Once that's done, they then go through what they add. They start doing what's called atmo processing, where they have these giant, like, intake fans, which are designed to take in the atmosphere, and then convert it into a nitrogen, oxygen atmosphere, an Earth-like atmosphere, as close as possible. Once that process is done with, then they take the process of seeding the world, and they use seeding plants and animals. Initially, obviously, early colonization, stuff like lichen, moss, those sorts of things. They deposit that on the planet first. And after that, they start adding in more complex life until they can have a good ecosystem going. And then humans will start to fully inhabit. Usually there's a couple of pioneering groups that'll live at that point, but then eventually, once the ecosystem is established and they can actually support long-term stuff, they start to increase the population. So, will we have egg cows on there? Probably. The Kazi grazers. Question: have you thought about being an arms smuggler in Orison during Siege of Orison? The closest situations for respawning don't have best weapons, and Orison has none. That's Diabolus would be doing that. That'd be a cool idea. I pushed the idea to my org, but I won't be able to mobilize them while I'm on vacation. We'll see. I'll have to talk to Diabolus about it. We might be able to do that. That there's already some insane tech to be able to break through a planet's crust and keep going to the core. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. The tech itself, though, is expensive. It's very difficult to do it. It's time consuming, and it takes years to get to do it. Like the average, it took humanity 30 years to terraform Mars. 60 years to terraform Mars. We now can terraform planets in the matter of a decade. I think the fastest they've been able to terraform a planet was like a handful of years, but the process is different for each planet. Some planets have a molten core, so you don't need to spin it up. So that its magnetic field is fine. Some planets already have molten cores and have breathable atmospheres, or close to breathable atmospheres, so you don't have to. It doesn't require a lot of changing to change the atmosphere. And so, if you have a planet that just needs a couple of atmo processors and some seed plants, bingo, bango, bongo, it'll take you a lot less time to get that started. Is it more expensive to build a planet? It is very much more expensive to build a planet, but the expense is also not genociding life that already exists on planets. Egg cows will produce eggs the size of a gray cat. They're called Kazi grazers. We don't know exactly what they are. They're not actually cows, but they call them space cows because they serve similar purposes to cows, where you can kill them for their meat, and they carry their young in egg sacs and clutches on their where a typical cow's udder is. They're a natural creature of Terra, which is Terra Nova, which is one of the new planets. Dr. PD update. Have we had it? Has it gone on? Hello? Not according to this yet, so we're waiting to go on that. Cow and chicken all in one, yeah. Yes, it's not been updated yet. I was hoping to stay on for a little bit longer, but something, synth world, something, yeah. Can you hear me now? I hope they don't forget about the sea monsters and sandworms. They still plan on having those. Question. Hi, Paul. Great to have you during a more European-friendly times. That was the goal. Would you foresee CIG implementing planets that defy our common understanding of physics right now? Probably. I mean, kind of already do. But yeah, for sure. I could see them doing some weird shit. Yeah, they haven't released the latest update. The update's going to happen, but it's probably going to happen more around like 5 my time. So I'm going to wrap this up at a clean 4 hours. I mean, the key with Star Citizen is it's the same with any kind of science fiction universe. Is it's okay to have fantastical, weird shit because any advanced science is indistinguishable from magic, but also because having that sort of thing makes it feel alien. It makes it feel familiar but alien. Having floating like land masses on a planet is weird as shit and is disorienting. But it's common enough to know that what an island is, to see an island that's floating, to go, there's something weird about this and it's not normal, which is fine. Update today? No major update. They were going to do an update to the Galactopedia today, but it's not been released yet. So, all right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching us and hanging out with us here on Twitch and YouTube. If you enjoyed this, hit that follow button if you're on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to go that extra mile, we have subscriptions on Twitch. We also have memberships on YouTube. Memberships on YouTube gives you a little bit of a perk because you can actually see all the videos the moment I upload them rather than when they go live. So you'll be able to see videos all the way up to the point they do go live for everybody else. And you know, if you want to support us, that's a great way of supporting us monetarily. If you don't have the money, that's fine. Just watching does a lot. Liking the video if you're watching this on YouTube and spreading the word is also nice. And we'll be back on Thursday for another office hours stream, 2 in one week. I know, it's crazy. Hopefully, tell me if you like this experiment. Tell me if this experiment worked or not. I'll probably do it again if people like this. If it does it well, I'll do this again on next Tuesday. And we'll continue from there. So. Yes, my org as well. We did start a new org called the League of Relic Enthusiasts. If you want to join us, it's L0RE on Spectrum. I'm still trying to figure things out and fix some things, but feel free to join us there if you enjoy lore and historical. The whole goal of the organization is to procure historical artifacts and preserve historical data, and eventually open up a museum for people to see it. So, yes. Not a cult. Not a cult. All right, y'all. Thank you again. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. And remember, ex Historia ad Astra.